pitching it. He does to Cook. Oh, he reaches across. Touchdown, Buffalo.
Who should we get the ball to?
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
First and goal. Holmes still has it. To the 5, and in for the touchdown. And his worst pass of the night is on the spike attempt.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's Barkley, a little shovel, looking for an edge, gets it, Saquon Barkley, first down, Barkley, oh! Saquon, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
First to throw, near side, lets her rip, Brown, touchdown!
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Design run, Hurts, delay, Hurts, in, touchdown, Eagles!
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon. It's a Tuesday afternoon, the buffer week, the kind of a take a deep breath and decompress week when it comes to the two teams that will play for a world championship, the Chiefs and the Eagles, and Super Bowl 59 down in New Orleans. We will be there with coverage, 365 Sports, all throughout next week inside the convention center. Hope you've had a great day today. And let's get to some of the stories. Our guest, first of all, Owen Reese, who's an East-West Shrine Bowl National Scout, will join us today from up in the DFW area. Manny Navarro with TheAthletic.com on the transfer portal. Babe Laufenberg, color analyst of the Cowboys on the day after Brian Schottenheimer introduced, off the radar. And also Craig and Paul then with this top 5 today. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you have not done so. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina is to my left. Zach Etheridge, Houston. It looks like Miami is targeting him. That word targeting, I get a little bit PTSD when it comes to that because I hate the penalty. But looks like he's someone that's involved. Zach Etheridge played at Tech, did he not?
Yeah, I believe he did. And they did a great pass defense this year. Miami didn't have a good anything defense this year. That's why they had a national championship offense and a high school defense. I mean, it was one of the reasons Cam Ward shot up the draft boards as much as he did is he was keeping them in all these games because if they were trying to win it on defense, it wasn't going to happen. And he was remarkable with Hurricanes. So a nice addition for them this year.
He actually played at Auburn. That's where he was, in fact, recently as the last 3 years as their safeties coach. Coached at Houston prior to that, then back at Houston, and now he is headed again to, it appears to be, to Miami.
Yeah, I don't know where the Tech influence came in there because, he did not go to Tech. He's been at Houston the last couple of years, last year or so, and was with Houston as a DB's coach for a couple years. Before that, Auburn sandwiched in between. Auburn, as you mentioned, his alma mater. So, I think the only Big 12 connection this guy has was the couple of Houston stints. But he's a good coach. Looks like that ought to be an area where, you improve if you're making this higher. At least that's what your hope is, obviously. And Miami, a team that's fast and furious in the offseason like usual, right? I mean, everybody's making coaching changes, so this isn't too crazy. But a team that their changes just seem a little bit more notable because you know what they're gunning for. And, yes, everybody's gunning for the same thing as well, but nobody's quite outwardly doing so as much as Miami has since the NIL era sort of started. And it's amounted, quite frankly, so far to mostly nothing, despite a lot of dollars being thrown around and a lot of talk originally from John Ruiz and just kind of the sort of, I guess, what do you call it? Kind of like character they they created for themselves as far as like the NIL, the Kings or whatever. That hasn't amounted to much. We've watched, the SEC have their success, the Big Ten have their success, the ACC's had some good teams, but Miami's, just kind of been there, not one of the standouts, and you wonder at some point, is it going to pay off? But Zach Etheridge seems like a solid coach, so we'll see what that does for that staff to try to improve on the field, and as they continue to work off the field and grabbing big time quarterback like Carson Beck and whatever else they end up doing.
Zach Etheridge, according to Kyle Visser, not according, but Kyle saying that he's married to Willie Fritz's daughter, and his grandson is dad. So that's an interesting connection. He's headed to Miami. I was thinking about Zebby Lethbridge. Remember him at Texas Tech?
That's why I was thinking,
That's why this little brain here sometimes is not bad. Just look it up online. You can find some information about where somebody might be from. Now, I spoke with Brett Ingram. He's the lead media relations director at Baylor. Tomorrow, Mac Rhodes will join us in studio. The ACC released their schedule. We're going to get to it in a moment. But I asked him, I said, hey, when does the Big 12 release theirs? And he said the last couple of years it has been the end of January. So look for that to be something that we will look at some point, maybe by the end of the week, perhaps by the end of this week. You have that in your off the radar?
No, I was going to mention, it's a loss for Houston. I was talking about Miami and picking up Zach Etheridge, but obviously Houston, a program who's made some good strides in their early ventures into the Big 12, although it's been a bit rough at times. But Willie Fritz last year creating a lot of excitement, and, you hate to lose a coach, especially from a building block type of team, but I'm sure he'll have no problem in doing so, and wasn't aware of that connection with Willie Fritz, so thanks for pointing that out. But, as much as it's potentially a great ad for Miami, that means it's also a loss for somebody, so we'll see what Houston does to try to fill in that blank.
All right, so the Big 12 schedule has been released the last couple of years on the 30th or the 31st of January. The ACC released theirs yesterday. Listen, I can't see that, and it's right in front of me. I got the piece of paper here. But there's the schedule. Miami and Florida State, Clemson, etc. Paul, what's up? Let's see. Florida State.
Let's hold off on that. I think that'd be a better idea, honestly, to do later in the 5 o'clock hour, Paul, with the Florida State
I was going to go over
schedule.
Florida State schedule. We'll do that with you later on. So
sure.
I think that'd be better to fill time.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm all for it.
I don't know why I put out a rundown. I should have put that in a special segment. You're right.
Yeah. But no, I think that I'll be properly terrified by even more.
Have you looked at it?
Yeah, I looked at it.
All right. Yeah.
I would like you to I've looked at it. I don't remember it all completely, but if we go through it one by one, I'll tell you which games I'm gonna be not in a good mood for.
All right. SMU, of course, a part of the ACC. Their schedule came out too. They have their second game of the year. Non-conference game is hosting Baylor. That is coming up in the 2025 season. North Carolina, Kenan Stadium is going back to natural grass. This Bill Belichick, of course, the head coach, I'm sure he had something to do with this. Maybe the way he wants to recruit a certain amount of players. Not that he didn't have power and speed and everything else, and, of course, a great quarterback when he was coaching the Patriots. But they're going back to grass. The school announced that earlier in the week.
I wish everybody played on grass. I know field turf is cool and all, and it's better than the old AstroTurf, but still not the best for your body,
Wonder what the differences are in cost. Might be a good question for, I met pretty much anybody. I can just email somebody about the difference in cost of maintaining a full grass, natural grass field, because now they can make it almost feel like it's turf compared to what the upkeep is on the fake stuff. Even though it's not like you just let it sit there, you still got to maintain it. But I wonder what the cost might be to North Carolina for going back to natural grass.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure natural grass is much more expensive, but you can contact, some fields keepers and get that for sure. But, I don't know how much Bill Belichick had say in this, but most teams that are able to swing it are moving to natural grass just because it's easier on players' bodies. Apparently, it's less of an injury risk, and I think just the signs point to if you can do it, it's better for your players overall. So, if you can spring it, we've seen, I think, a few teams make that switch in the last few years. I want to say maybe Texas is one of them, I think, or maybe they're moving towards it. I know there's something I read about how they're in the process of, I think, switching their other fields to grass. I read about that a few months ago. So, yeah, I think that's a good move seemingly on paper to try to keep your team healthier. And North Carolina, a very exciting program at the moment with Belichick and just all of the changes. I imagine it's probably as fun to be a fan of the Tar Heels right now as it's been in a long time. And every little thing is another fun thing, even if it's just changing over to grass. So we'll see how active they are this offseason. But, yeah, that's cool for them, cool for their stadium, I guess.
I'd rather have the regular grass, too. It can be almost to the point where they have it maintained at you can't tell if it's grass. And it is, you would think, and we've had even people who have mentioned this before, how it's easier on the body, natural grass rather than the field turf. I don't know if there's specific stats on that. All right, the college football season ended with Ohio State winning the national title. And this didn't move much. The stop rate, this is defenses who allowed the fewest amount of points per drive. Ohio State, Texas, Tennessee remained very good despite the fact they got drilled by Ohio State. Then you have Notre Dame at 5. They played for the national title. There you see Indiana, which got a lot of credit for Cignetti and his offense right there, number 6 all overall. How about Sam Houston State in that mix among a few others? Army, Penn State. A lot of it also depends on the offense that you run. SMU inside that bubble, too, among the top stop rate defenses in college football last season.
Yeah, I think not surprising with like the most impressive one to me that kind of came out of nowhere in the last couple of years. SMU, remember they were not great on defense, and they've certainly improved over the last couple of years. Alabama better on defense this year than I thought they would be after losing when they did it, especially early in the year where everybody was on Kane Womack's ass about, of course they were just mad because nobody works for Nick Saban anymore. But yeah, I mean they showed out there, and Army. I don't think Army gave up like a point in conference for about 3 weeks. Like they were just dominating people, and then of course they have the ball, for 12 minutes every quarter. So it's kind of hard to score. The defense is, probably doesn't have that much endurance because they didn't need it. They were just out there. So yeah, I love this this stat that Max puts out. It's very telling, and you see the teams at the top. Not a surprise at all.
I'm surprised to see James Madison all the way up there and in the midst of those teams. I mean, that's all playoff teams basically, except for the wannabe playoff team in Ole Miss. But there they are right in the square, and Alabama obviously not one either, but of that top 8, I mean, that's definitely the outlier is James Madison. So they've done themselves a good amount of good in terms of whatever your perception was about them jumping up a level and all that. I mean, they've made little waves here and there. So, that's impressive to see, especially when you've had some turnover as well. So that's, just a unique team that I would not have predicted to be amongst that group that they're amongst right there. And then I think SMU had a really good defense, so I'm not all that surprised to see them. But Utah, for as crap of a year as they had, I mean, overall, honestly, that was still a pretty good defense. It just got totally overshadowed by the mess on offense and then the mess outside the lines when it came to rantings or coaching hot seats or quarterback health or whatever else we were talking about with Utah that wasn't on the field. They still had a really good defense, so I'd expect with Whittingham back next year and all that quieted down that they'll have a really good defense again, but we'll see how that offense looks. They obviously went and got a new OC, a new quarterback and all that. So that's a team that will be very interesting. But, yeah, that defense was still stout and kept them in some games that otherwise they might have been a much messier season for Utah.
In October of 23, Ralph Rousseau, who now is writing for theathletic.com, the Associated Press for the longest time, we've had him on a few times, this is October of 23, of the 133 schools that currently compete at the top-tier NCAA Division I, 94 have artificial surface of some point, 71%. 29% have grass. 5 schools, the Power 5 schools, of course, can afford to keep up compared to the others. So 39 is a little bit more than I thought as far as having natural grass. 29% of the 133 that Ralph did poll when it comes to FBS schools. So that's gone up a little bit, though. It used to be Well, of course, in the 1970s and 80s, it was that hard concrete artificial turf that came out. Dylan Gabriel will be at the Senior Bowl. This is pretty cool. This is Garrett shared this with me and sharing it with you. Played at UCF, played at Oklahoma, played at Oregon. His Senior Bowl helmet will honor all of those schools he played for.
He was good at all of them, too. I mean, that's he's one of those it's kind of a strange journey for him in that, sometimes guys, have to bounce around so they can start. He was good at UCF. He followed Jeff Lebby to Oklahoma. And then Oklahoma decided to move on from him, or he decided to move on from him. I don't know, the story's really cloudy on what happened there, and he went to Oregon. So pretty cool that he can honor all the schools there because he was really good at all of them.
Yeah, I like that we've entered the period of college athletics where it looks like you played in an all-star game, but it's just your schools. You didn't swap any stickers with 10 other guys on your team. You just played at all these places. So, yeah, it looks like you were at the Hula Bowl, but nope, you were just playing for all these schools. So, yeah, I think that's a cool nod to all those teams. I don't know if you're playing on Monday Night Football, what they say, if you just default to your high school at this point, or if they try to cram in everybody, but he made an impact everywhere he went. He went East Coast, West Coast, the Plains. He's, been around and been a great player, so it's going to be weird to see college football without him, although probably good that he moves on at this point. But, yeah, that's my first thought is just looks like an all-star game helmet after the week is over with the practices, but nope, that's just the result of the transfer portal and NIL. So there you go. But that's pretty cool he's doing that.
Is this the bowl game, or is it the Hula Bowl, or what bowl game used to have, and maybe it is the Senior Bowl in Mobile, that you had other stickers of other players' teams?
Bowl.
It's the Hula Bowl? Okay, Hula Bowl. I always thought that was really cool. I always thought that was really, really cool that you had, like you could have played at Tennessee and you had Hawaii, or, well, the Hula Bowl, or maybe Ohio State or Toledo, their stickers on the helmet. I always thought that was a pretty cool deal.
I mean, I think they've probably done it in others, but I know the Hula Bowl is where I remember seeing it, and I always thought it was kind of cool growing up that they did that. Wondered if did what the little kids do and just, hey, if I was, who would I trade with? Well, you ended up just trading with everybody that you run into. I don't think there's any exact science to it, but that's where I remember it. It probably happens in other games I'm just not thinking of. But, yeah, that's what I think of when I see that Dylan Gabriel helmet there.
Garrett, if you played in one of those games and you wanted how many, let's say 5 football helmet stickers other than your, my God, LSU Go Tigers, that would be one. Which would be the other 4?
That's a good question. I would take the old school Oregon one with like the Daffy Duck looking guy coming out of the O. I would take the Michigan stripes.
Ooh.
I would take probably the Florida State spear and numbers like Alabama.
Yeah, they're just a simple, like
Right.
Penn State, Alabama.
Yeah.
Paul?
I do like the duck, the old school duck. That was a good one. I love a bunch of old school logos. I wish people would go back to them. I'm glad this came up. There's an old Louisville logo that I absolutely love. That's like he's doing the Heisman. That's really cool.
The Cardinal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, God. Here it is right here. I'll show you that one.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I like that
All right.
one. Jeez. This is going to sound really weird, but I think it's cool when Florida uses the F on their helmet.
It does. It looks good.
I think it looks really good.
Is that like back in the days of Spurrier in the Heisman Trophy years? I don't
The
know.
only problem with this is you're going to need everybody to select like their one-off helmets that they've barely ever worn. It's like asking for like Sailor Bear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Like, there's just so many, and it's become such a thing in football, especially in college football, to do that. I like this logo. The BYU is
simple.
It's very simple, and it's a simple elegance right there. So,
all right, Craig.
Yeah. I'd take the Longhorn logo, turn it upside down, and just slap it on there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know. I think the FSU spear would be cool. The Bama A is pretty cool. So those would be two of the starters for me. And then after that, I mean, obviously, if I wasn't playing for OU, I guess I'd throw that on there as well. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. A couple of mine, the Michigan kind of whatever that's supposed to be, I don't even know. For Oregon, you'd call it wings. But one of those two would be pretty cool. Either the wings for Oregon or Michigan's logo there would be pretty sweet because that's instantly recognizable. But, yeah, I think FSU, Bama, all that would get kind of crowded, all those things, because they're all kind of different logos. Like one's the front of the helmet, one's the spear going across all of the side. The Bama's just a regular logo, so it might be kind of crowded with just those three. And then I guess add in OU, and I don't know, I'd have to come up with probably just some random-ass one for like Navy or something like that I'd throw on there.
Yeah, I before I ever met Paul, Nebraska has lifelong been my favorite team. Always had emotions with Oklahoma because of the fact they were Nebraska's number one rival, and then, family all loved Oklahoma. But I always liked FSU. Even though when they played in '93 for the national title, and they had some other bowl games prior to that, and even some non-conference games, I've always loved their helmet. Reminded me of the old Washington NFL helmet back in the days of Charlie Taylor, Sonny Jurgensen, and many others. So I would have Nebraska. I love USC. I love what they put on the side, and then FSU would be one of the military academies, most likely, obviously, Navy, because my father graduated from that.
Look, that Tuskegee Airman one that's right behind you, the Navy one, that's maybe my favorite helmet that anyone's ever done ever. I love that helmet.
Yeah, that's the one I kind of blocked that off, don't I?
That one, I love that one.
Go.
So, if they could give me that one, that's kind of a one-off, but yeah. Give me, you know what? Give me a bunch of the stickers from the Army-Navy game over the last few years since they've started doing this. Like the Band of Brothers, or like all the stuff that they did the last few years. Like, just give me those on my helmet and I'd be happy. That'd be great. So
Paxton mentioned the Arizona State, the Devil logo. That's a nice one too.
Yeah, that's a cool
nice
logo.
One too. My three favorite schools in college, as far as my three favorite football teams, Nebraska forever, Florida State, and Arizona State are two as well. Those were, in fact, I think like Arizona State is the Florida State on the west side, and Florida State kind of the Arizona State when it comes to the East Coast too. And Paul has told me the campus life and views are also very similar.
Yes.
Lots of suntans.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, when I was in Phoenix, I thought I was just in really arid Tallahassee.
Arid.
Treeless.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you take away the trees and the humidity, and you that's what you got. I mean, it's walking around, you really feel
a lot of cutoff shorts, etc.
Really felt at home.
Yeah.
A lot of people just sunbathing in the middle of campus. I mean, it's nice to see people comfortable in their learning environment.
Yeah, they were learning about health, environment, and the atmosphere. So, Iowa State's a really good basketball team. So is Arizona. They met last night in Tucson, and Iowa State looked like they were about to get away with a win. Love from Arizona was 1 of 11 shooting threes, and then as time is running out and down. All right, so that is how the game in regulation ended. Nearly a three-quarters shot, obviously at least half court and more. And then he went on to hit a couple of threes. Love did in overtime, and Arizona found a way to win that game. Tough loss for Iowa State, great win for Arizona. And the Big 12, we're starting to see those about whenever, once a week, these teams are all playing each other.
Well, when you have a player like Caleb Love pretty much boxed up the entire game, that's when you get nervous. I know, you could see the look on TJ Otzelberger's face after that, but when he gets the ball in his hand with any kind of tick on the clock left, with an ability to tie the game, and he hasn't made any shots yet, that the math is just going to get to you. I mean, the statistics of things. I mean, you can go to evanmaya.com and look at the statistics of things and watch a game where a guy's cold. Just pick out a guy from his site, watch a game, and if he's cold, you'll be like, all right, well, that's not good. But depending on how elite they are, and Caleb Love is elite, like they're going to find their way back to their average eventually. The whole hope is that you have one of those nights where it doesn't get there, and then you give him extra time to do it. And guess what? He found his way just about back to his average with that shot and the ones in overtime. He found his way because that's what the great ones do. And, I mean, I'm sick to my stomach for Iowa State after seeing that. But, man, we saw Houston and Kansas this weekend on Saturday. Then we saw that one. Every SEC game is ending like this now. It seems like they're really close. It's just this is a peak year, I think, for college basketball. There's a lot of really fun conferences and games to watch night in and night out all across.
Well, it's a really nice win, obviously, for Arizona. A brutal loss for Iowa State. They'll be fine. It's not the end of the world. It's just a tough loss, and it would have been a nice win, obviously, but you move on and you move forward and lick your wounds and get better, and they've got, some tough games coming up, I think. They got Kansas right around the corner. I think they got K-State before that. So they'll have a little Farmageddon and then KU in a battle of two of the arguably better teams in the country. So Iowa State has no time to really pout, and I don't think that they would either way. But that was obviously tough, and at the same time, just full elation for Arizona. It's been kind of hard to get a gauge just on basketball season because we haven't really dipped into that as much. In terms of like the excitement of being in the league now and what that's been like. Maybe we need to talk to Jason Shearer here pretty soon and just check in maybe post Super Bowl on life in Big 12 basketball up to this point, but seem to be enjoying themselves, and certainly were enjoying themselves last night, and they're right there at the top of the standings. I mean, they're the best team that's not ranked right now in the Big 12. They're right there receiving votes, but I think they go finish out this week, and very good chance that we could see them in the top 25, joining the likes of Iowa State and Kansas and perhaps obviously Houston as well, and then there's Texas Tech. So, maybe Arizona joins those guys, and that was a great win. And that was an exciting moment, and just a big-time shot and a big-time key pivotal, place in that game where you needed that to get what you got done at the end of it. So that had to feel pretty great for the Wildcats.
So Cyclone Larry, have y'all ever followed him? Cyclone Larry 69 on Twitter is a obnoxious, funny, great sense of humor. And he basically posted last night that this is a great win and et cetera and et cetera. And then all of a sudden, of course, that didn't age very well. And I am not sleeping tonight. What did I do to deserve this pain? We are going to win and beat Kansas State by 1 billion. This was all like leading into the game, during the game, and much, much more. Please tell me Mommy is closer to 4 weeks than 6 weeks. I'm not sure. What is that?
I don't know. Gosh.
And so he showed the video came out, and then he goes, all right, I'm over this. This is going to be the beginning. It's the slow motion of love, and the shot, excruciatingly slow motion, eventually goes in. This will be the beginning of the Iowa State National Championship DVD, the loss in Tucson. And so I was kind of fun to watch his Twitter feed. Cyclone Larry 69 is a great follow if you don't have him on your Twitter feed. So then there's that. Tonight in the Big 12, you have Baylor and Provo against BYU, UCF at KU, and then Arizona State in Cincinnati, and in Colorado, and Cincinnati playing at Utah. That Baylor BYU, I guess, if you look at all the various analytics, et cetera, might be the best of those 4 games. But KU, Paul, we didn't say this to you yesterday. We didn't mention this to you. What day was it? When did they lose that game to Houston?
Saturday night.
Saturday night. Somebody's not around. They're not in the country. Amanda's not in the country. She was headed back to the border. Tom Homan said, no, we need to be careful with her, right? Is that how bad it was?
Yeah. She's I'm sure Bill Self put in DeJuan Harris probably should have won because put in one a request to keep her away because she was upset about that. And I had to. Here's the thing. There's this tenuous balance of what she wants to know about a game and what she doesn't want to know. And she's on a Disney cruise, and the ESPN app doesn't work on the Disney cruise. even though you get the internet package. So that's kind of weird. You would think that would be one thing that worked, but she was they were like going into one of the like shows on the cruise, the magician or whatever. So she was just like, just please text me updates. And so I'm texting her updates. It's going fine. Like, they're up 7 with, 2 minutes left. Oh, they're up 6 with, 10 seconds left. And it's boom, and it's overtime. And I said, you're not going to want to know how this happened. And she's like, I'm not even going to look it up. I said, okay, good. I won't say anything more about it. And then the next morning I wake up and she's like, I'm so mad at DeJuan Harris. I'm like, I thought you didn't even look it up.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So
no. How do you not? I still don't understand how she doesn't watch them when the game is going on.
I don't either.
I think she does, but she basically don't.
She does watch it a lot on her phone on silent while something else is on. So she'll put it on silent and watch it and follow along. And then I know it's going poorly because she'll turn her phone over like this and then watch whatever else we were watching.
Yeah, and then probably goes back and breaks down the film, gets the film.
Oh, if they win, she will watch it the next day.
I don't know if I have enough time, and I don't know if I can do that. Like
Yes.
I started recording when Nebraska was dominant. If I could, I would record their football games. Haven't done that in years. Because why would I want to go back and watch that nightmare? Usually I just watch the last 5 minutes and they get a punt blocked or something like that. Last note, Matt Eberflus. Do you have this one?
Yep. Oh, did he?
Just want to make sure. I don't know. Is the defensive coordinator under Brian Schottenheimer with the Cowboys. He's been at Chicago the last 3 years as the head coach. Colts, Browns, was with the Cowboys, I think, quite a bit from 11 through 17, linebackers coach, and he's coming back. And that was kind of like something that was even brought up before the weekend. He is the defensive coordinator for your Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, we'll see. He was a really good DC for the Colts. As long as he doesn't have to make time management decisions, this is an all right hire. Again, there's a bunch of people they could hire. Like we said yesterday, I feel bad for these coaches because ultimately they're not going to get all the avenues of talent filled up that they need to help them win a Super Bowl. And it'll just be blamed on them. And it's not ever once been the coach's fault in this whole run. Not ever once. Maybe like Chan Gailey probably wasn't the right pick. Dave Campbell walked into salary cap hell. But none of the other things, have really ever been their fault. Wade Phillips kind of lost control of the team, but I think he could have got it back if they would have just cleaned house and given him a better, group of locker room guys. But, good luck to Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, I mean, they really sucked down the stretch in Chicago, but he's not the head coach, so that doesn't really matter. He's a good defensive guy, and that's what you're looking for out of him. So, it seems like a solid hire. Anything beyond that, X's and O's breakdown, how he fits with their personnel, and we'll use Micah Parsons and all that. I have no idea at the moment, although I'm sure there's a lot of people hard at work and breaking all that down, and I can go search that out later and learn more about how this might all actually look in Dallas. But on paper, it seems to be a solid hire. I just think everything's very uninspiring at the moment because of what you did at head coach. So I feel as though they can go do all sorts of things right now, go hire an all-star coaching staff, and it's not going to matter. The only thing they can really do at this point is go sign players that get people excited, and we'll see if that's even on the docket for them or not, but ultimately the proof's going to be in the pudding, and so I think it's going to be a long offseason for Cowboys fans who are dreading the worst, hoping for the best, and not expecting much. And then what it actually is, we'll eventually see in August and September, but I think it's a weird sort of offseason in store where you're going to try to drum up excitement, but I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than normal because, again, people I just feel like are completely uninspired by who's now leading the charge, whereas McCarthy, at least you felt like there was some meat on that bone, Super Bowl winner, things like that. With Eberflus, it just feels like kind of air being let out of the tire based on the reaction.
Yep, I agree. Got a lot of experience. He's been around a long, long time. Has some college history too, and now back with the Cowboys, but as the defensive coordinator. If you're the defensive coordinator and Wade Phillips is the head coach, are you the defensive coordinator?
I mean, yeah, by title.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
That's about it. Maybe more so because he's got to also run the entire team. But, man, when Wade Phillips was a defense, he's a great defensive mind. When we come back, we will hear Owen Reese. He covers and has been covering the East-West Shrine Bowl and the workouts and more. Remember, it was a week ago, Eric Galco, who runs the event, was on with us. They have the 100th year of the East-West Shrine game up in Dallas and Fort Worth, coming up at AT&T Stadium on the 30th. He'll tell. I've been seeing clips from a lot of different, from Dane Brugler, from a lot of big people that cover the NFL and also the draft, et cetera. And there's a lot of small school, and I say a lot, there's a chunk of small school offensive linemen who are having themselves quite the week so far against some of the bigger schools and the defensive line and pass blocking drills and more. This is 365 Sports.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford, coming to you from our climate-controlled, warm showroom, letting you know that right now it is all about pre-owned cars. We've got a great selection of pre-owned vehicles. Right now, every pre-owned vehicle is priced to move. All our pre-owned vehicles are inspected by certified technicians and include the BK Advantage. Right now is the time to shop for a pre-owned vehicle at Bird Collision Ford.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Owen Reese, assistant offensive line, offensive quality control, NFL liaison. Also, not only in the college game, but part of what Eric Galco and the East-West Shrine Bowl workouts, the game on the 30th at AT&T Stadium. He joins us. Hey, thanks a lot, Owen. Appreciate your time and being a part of the show. I have seen a lot of clips from various people who are covering the workouts, including yourself. Is it true that there are some, what I call the small school, non-Power 5 offensive linemen that have shined quite a bit the first 3 or 4 days?
Absolutely. Yeah, a couple for sure. Marcus Weir played tackle and guard at Montana State. He's a guy who, admittedly, when you look at him next to some of his peers, doesn't have the frame, right? Isn't 6'9" and 350 pounds, but he's very athletic and he shows great technical prowess. And I think that's what allows him to compete. He's very athletic and small, right? So what he lacks in sheer size, he's able to make up for in lateral ability and able to beat guys with technique. And the other guy, I think probably the bigger story maybe, is Thomas Perry. Thomas Perry is a Division III player out of Middlebury College in Vermont, and is a kid who plays in a conference. It's called the NESCAC, which is basically the Ivy League of Division III. They don't play postseason football. It's extremely academically driven, kind of for those teams with the ability for kids to play football, essentially. And so he's a guy who, with all due respect to Middlebury athletics, right, wasn't overly coached, right? They're not a football staff with an excess of resources. And so he's a kid with tremendous physical ability and strength, who was at a small school and has now been training down with Duke Manyweather, who's as good as any offensive line coach in the country or trainer in the country, which he does privately down here in Texas. And it showed, coming from a guy who, with legitimate and major level of competition concerns, he's playing against guys better than he's ever played before for the first time, and playing center as opposed to guard like he did in college, and he's doing very well, which is always fun at these all-star games, right? You see Middlebury College versus the University of Georgia, right? Which doesn't happen very often, but it's a great opportunity for those kids to kind of see how they measure up and show NFL teams that they belong, and it doesn't really matter where you play as long as how well you can play.
Who has been the surprising, like outside of him, like better at a new position than you thought they might be? Because this is where you guys move him around quite a bit.
No doubt. I'm going to go with Gareth Warren, who's another offensive lineman actually from Lindenwood, who's a kid that played left tackle at Lindenwood, has been a multi-year starter there, and has really kicked inside the guard and for the most part played guard this week, and he's done very well. Throughout football media, there's a bit of I'm a college offensive line coach, so I fight back on some of this stuff a little bit. There's a bit of a myth that if someone just can't play tackle, just kick him inside the guard and he'll be fine. That's not always the case. Things happen a lot quicker inside. The analogy I usually use is that playing outside at tackle, you have so much more space and abundance of space for the defenders to work. It's kind of a ballet, right? It's more timing and grace and elegance. Where playing at guard a lot more times is more opposed to being a mosh pit, right? It's very quick, immediate, and physical and violent, and the ability to transition inside and be able to handle that speed, and truthfully bigger, thicker, stronger bodies on the inside at a more urgent pace is tough to do a lot of times. For a kid like Gareth, who is 6'6", with really long arms, right? The timing with your punch and strike can be different. He's done a really good job navigating this week. I think he's made himself a lot of money.
Oh, and Taj Brooks, watching him these last few years in the Big 12, I mean, the dude's a stud. He's a bell cow. He's a lot of other superlatives. It seems from what I've been reading the last couple of days, I mean, he's getting mentioned a lot, making a lot of waves. It sounds like, at least. From your perspective, what's Taj Brooks done for himself, and how does he sort of stand out, I guess, amongst the crop of running backs out there?
No doubt. So Taj has been a part of my position group throughout the week. He's done an awesome job at practice, right? Is parlaying this extremely productive and successful career with Texas Tech into the All-Star game circuit, which can admittedly be tough at times for running backs to stand out. Obviously, the practices are legitimate and full speed, but this is an exhibition All-Star game, right? So Taj is a guy who, again, extremely productive in college, has showed the ability to catch the ball as well as be a weapon when it's handed to him. He's done that in practice. I think the biggest thing, though, and maybe an underrated part of the value of All-Star games, is the off the field, right? He's had the opportunity to meet with all 32 NFL teams throughout this week, and his demeanor and professionalism, handling himself, showing the preparedness for interviews and being prompt and ready for things. I think that's just as much of an endorsement for him as well this week. Obviously, he's succeeded on the field, right? But there's a lot more to being a professional football player than being very talented at the game itself. And I think that's something that Taj has done a great job of exhibiting this week, and he's done a really good job. Impressed me a lot.
What do you? He's a hell of a player. Kobe Bryant, defensive back at KU. I've seen his name flare up in all the good ways too. There's so many players we could ask you about, but we cover a lot of the Big 12 and probably deeper than anybody else. But what type of player and what do you see from him and about where he might go?
Yeah, so Kobe's a kid who I've seen a little bit on Twitter and at practice, kind of called a trash talk All-American. And Kobe's a kid who is extremely competitive and feisty. He weighed in this week at 171 pounds. And while that's pretty near the bottom of our list as far as some of the guys that are here, talking to some scouts, it's the heaviest he's ever been, right? He was 149 pounds getting to Kansas, right? So he's struggled to put on weight, but it's not something like he's not negligent about it. It's just something, his metabolism's fast and it's hard for him to do. What he's been able to do for that, though, is he's extremely sticky in coverage, which kind of helps negate some of that, right? And so he's done a great job. He's always around the ball. He's pesky, right? If he gets beat, he doesn't really care. He's going to come back the next play. He's going to talk some crap to you, and then he's going to probably win the rep. So he's done a great job with that throughout the week. And I think he's probably going to play he's going to have to play outside at corner in the NFL. I think if you're playing inside at nickel, you're going to be depended on for tackling. And not to say that Kobe can't tackle or he's not good at it, but NFL teams usually aren't in the business of asking 170-pound guys to tackle running backs all the time, right? So he's going to get paid his money to cover people, and I think he's going to do that on the outside.
What are your thoughts on the Colorado wide receivers that are there? LaJohntay Wester, Will Shepherd. Those are guys who really, were Jimmy Horn there as well, that were part of this massive offense, maybe a little overshadowed by the fact that they're next to Travis Hunter. But LaJohntay Wester is a catch machine. Will Shepherd's a chain mover. And I think Jimmy Horn kind of really got overshadowed, and he was maybe the go-to that wasn't Travis Hunter.
No doubt. Yeah, they've all done a great job this week. You see LaJohntay is a bit slight. I think he was 177 pounds, I believe, at the weigh-ins, right? But he's so silky smooth with his movements. He's not overly twitchy. He's not just going to blaze past you, but he's done a great job showing the ability to separate within the route in consistent hands once he gets there. You can just, with his lateral abilities and his ability to manipulate defenders and play with leverage, he does a really nice job with that. Will Shepherd is a kid who we actually invited to the game last year when he was at Vanderbilt and ended up going back to school. Like you said, just a chain mover, steady Eddie in the best way possible, hyper consistent. He's done a good job this week. And then you're right. I think Jimmy Horn can be the wild card of this group, probably the fastest and most athletically gifted out of the group. Again, you have 4 guys going to the NFL as receivers. You can't feed them all as a primary guy, right? And while Jimmy may have kind of got the short straw with that at Colorado, he hasn't let that stop him here. He's done a great job. Came in as well as at the weigh-in as well. He's rocked up. He's put together. So he's not the biggest guy, but he's very muscular and you can tell he spends a lot of time in the weight room, and he's had a great week of practice as well.
Does Shedeur just kind of, I guess, is the conversation the most important piece for him during this time? Obviously not working out, kind of making decisions along the way, but how much good, Owen, can still be done even if you're not necessarily actively participating, if you will?
I think quite a bit, and that's where our game's a bit different. There are other games that are a bit more outspoken about it, but what we do is we provide, right, Shedeur is here. He has the opportunity to meet with NFL teams. He met with, again, he's another member of my group for the position for the week. He met with the Titans, met with the Giants, the Browns, and Jets pretty extensively, as well as the Vikings and some other teams, right? He didn't turn anybody down. He didn't say that I'm not going to talk to anybody, right? He showed up and he conducted himself like a professional. I think that's the big part. I think another very underrated part of this process, and something that we take pride in here at the Shrine Bowl and being a best-in-class event and helping our players, is that they're able to, Shedeur in particular, is able to lighten his load for the combine, right? I think it's obviously the combine has turned into this huge monstrosity of a public event, but the kind of the perception for a lot of these players is that it's an extremely long, exhausting week. And at the end of a 5-day stay in Indianapolis where you're getting probed medically and you're getting, meeting with all these teams and all of these things, and you're taking these cognitive exams and whatever, then at the end of it, you still have to work out. Like, that's the last day that the players are there. I don't know if that's always, portrayed that way in the media, but that's a long week and it's a lot for guys. And so the opportunity our kids have is that when they come here, they're able to knock out a lot of these preliminary interviews and kind of lighten their load in Indianapolis. They're still going to meet with a lot of teams, and there's still a lot going on, but it's just not full lock, stock, and barrel as if they hadn't come to an all-star event. So I do think that there's a lot of good to that for Shedeur, as well as, again, just allowing himself to be around NFL teams, right? The scouts come through the schools throughout the year, but they don't directly talk to the players, right? And that's the huge value for the teams of an all-star event is that you get to come and obviously the players compete right on the field and you get measurements and all that stuff, but it's the chance to actually physically sit down and talk to a kid, right, and kind of get a gauge for their personality and how competitive they are and their passion for the game and all that stuff. And that's something where Shedeur obviously is expected to and should be drafted very high in this draft class, and he had an excellent opportunity to meet plentifully with a lot of the teams up the top of the draft that need a quarterback, and I think that's priceless, invaluable, to be honest, for him to come here and show these teams, right, and meet with them. And I don't care what perception you have of me or what you've seen on TV or what you think I am through the media. Here I am right now in front of your face, and you're going to get it.
Yeah, I thought just listening to a part of an interview with him and all the players there, Dion, of course, showing up too, and it's just been kind of pretty cool. Nick Nash, he won the Triple Crown when it comes to receiving. He was a part of the awards as far as being a finalist. Where do you see him as an NFL player?
Nick is a guy, who's tremendously productive this past season at San Jose State. He's a guy, I think that, and he's done a good job as well here, really kind of showing what he can do. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Nick Nash is the most athletic and talented player in this class. I don't think anyone's going to confuse him for that, right? But you see the savvy within in and out of routes, being able to generate separation and kind of cultivate these ways for him to be quarterback friendly. And I think that's the big thing that you've seen. Another criticism of him for this past year, he had this one extremely productive year, like you said, led the country in all this major statistical categories. Can he do it consistently against better competition? Right. And that's where an event like this, where you think like someone like Nick Nash, what does he really have to gain from an all-star event? Right. He's a fifth-year senior. He just won the Biletnikoff Award, right? Like it's not like, or he was a finalist for it, and had this tremendously productive season. Like, what does he have to prove? Well, you have to prove that you can do that all the time, right? And it's no knock against him that it only happened his senior year, but this is the opportunity for him to show that. And I think Nick's going to make a team really happy on day 3. I think he's going to be competitive. He's going to fight for the ability to play on special teams and cling there. I think he's a guy that's going to be tremendously consistent and valuable to a team in those later rounds that a lot of times when teams are picking that late, they're kind of picking these height, weight, speed, boom or bust type guys. I think Nick's the complete antithesis of that. He's going to come in late. You're going to know exactly what he's going to be asked to do, and you're going to know exactly what he's capable of doing. And if teams are going to optimize him and ask him to do what he's good at, I think he's going to stick for a long time. By
the way, Owen Reese is with us. He's there at the East-West Shrine Bowl. He's also, I mentioned all that stuff he does in college at Wisconsin, Platteville, a part of that staff, and director of college scouting, too, for the Shrine Bowl and also Optimum Scouting. Paul?
What is your feeling about the deeper positions that you guys have seen? What's in this draft? We know it's not a great year for quarterbacks. It's a great year for running backs. Is there one that people might be sleeping on?
Yeah, I think tight end. I think the tight end position has gotten a lot of hate throughout the season. I think because there weren't the initial marquee, right? There's Colston Loveland from Michigan. You have Mason Taylor from LSU and Tyler Warren, obviously, from Penn State. But outside of that, I think initially the draft media or football media was initially a bit down on this class. And there's some guys like Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt who went back to school, which with the very fluid and constantly changing state of the NCAA these days, it's tough to keep track. But guys like Aronde Gadsden's been here, Carter Runyon, Jalen Conyers from Texas Tech, a lot of guys that are being slept on or not not being sold to the media as these guys that these are very talented guys. Aronde Gadsden's dad played in the NFL. He played for the Dolphins for a long time. Aronde showed up to Syracuse at 190 pounds. He weighed in here at 247 pounds. Right, he went there as a receiver, transitioned to tight end halfway through his college career, and now you have, in the current day NFL, right, someone like an Evan Ingram, right, a kind of a wide receiver masquerading as a tight end, but someone that can function at that spot and do just enough to get you by with that. Someone like Jalen Conyers, who started his career at Arizona State, with Jaden Daniels, you go back far enough. The amount of talent that was in Tempe at that time was pretty staggering. But he finished his career at Texas Tech this past year. Honestly, he's as effective with the ball in his hands after the catch as half or more of the receiver class, right? An extremely dynamic player with the ball in his hands after the catch. And I think someone like Carter Runyon, another guy who's coming from Towson, who's a smaller school guy, participated at the Hula Bowl a week ago and did well and impressed. And now he's here, and you got a kid who's 6'6" and 245 pounds and really more of that kind of the power forward type athlete, that big go up and throw it high and he's going to go get it type of kid at tight end. I think there's a lot of talent at the position, and it's kind of maybe they weren't immediately evident at the beginning of the season, and the media at that point kind of poo-pooed the class and I don't know, it's not really that good. It might not be that good in the top 30 to 50 picks, I think, but there's going to be a ton of dudes on day 2 and day 3 who get drafted and are immediately productive in the NFL at the spot. And I think that's one. And I think defensive tackle as well. I think that one's probably a bit more advertised, but defensive tackle is very deep in this class, and we've got a ton of quality ones here. It's been tough for the offensive line, to be honest, throughout the week, which is good though, because that's pushing them, and it kind of forces the cream of the O-line to rise to the bucket.
A name I have to ask you about before we let you go, Owen, is Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt from Arizona, because he didn't get to play basically this past year because of the eligibility issues there in Tucson. So I'd have to imagine he's as hungry as anybody to be out there playing football right now and to kind of put something out there. Anything notable from him, especially given the unique background of having been out basically all of last season?
Yeah, Ja'Cory's been awesome. And like you said, he played in one game. I think he had 13 for 130 yards and a touchdown in the first game of the year, and then he learned from the NCAA that I guess he was ineligible. And so talked to him earlier this week, and he said, yeah, I just played scout team running back all year, right? Which, if you want to know the dedication of a kid, scout team running back generally isn't a very glamorous spot. You're probably going to get beat up every day by the starting defense, and gladly did that for his team. And then went to the Hula Bowl a couple weeks ago and really impressed. It's very evident he's an NFL caliber running back, and has done it well here. I mean, 2 days ago in practice, busted 3 or 4 20-plus yard runs seemingly consecutively. And so he's done a great job maximizing his opportunities in this process. And again, showing his willingness and love for the game to stay ready and be ready, right? He's played in one football game in the last 24 months. He showed up ready to roll and has done really well. So I think he's done really well for himself this week as well.
Owen, what kind of birthday cake have you gotten today?
I knew there was some catch here. No, it's good. Truthfully, we're kind of in the downside of the week. Obviously, the beginning of the week is extremely hectic. So today's been a little bit slower, which is nice. I try to keep people from knowing it's my birthday. That's really not my thing. But it's been good. So, yeah, great way to wrap up the week. Excited for Media Day tomorrow. I think that's honestly my favorite part of the week. Is seeing the guys interact with the players from the Shriners, or the kids from the Shriners Children's Hospital, and kind of getting to see the players let their guards down a little bit. They don't have to be big, tough football players. They get to do that. So haven't had any birthday cake. I appreciate that, but it's been good. And as long as the event finishes strong here and all of our guys get drafted in April, it'll be a good birthday for me.
I didn't know that, and none of the guys in the media that are helping with the East-West Shrine Bowl, Eric or anyone else, Jonathan or Rob, said anything. Craig just happened to type it up on his screen and showed it to me. I didn't know that. So we do want to say happy birthday. So good for you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Craig, you brought up the Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I was interested. Ricky White, Paul, isn't that your favorite player of all time?
Yeah, Ricky White. That's my dude, because he's an NFL player. I don't know if he's an NFL special teamer, if he's Steve Tasker, or if he's somebody like Cedric Wilson, who played for the Cowboys and Saints and Dolphins, that kind of does everything. I don't know what he is, but he is an NFL player. Like, if I'm in a room and if I was in that scouting circle right there and they said, all right, we've kind of got these guys on the wall here, we're in the 4th, 5th round, I'd be like, look, that guy's an NFL player. I don't know what he's going to be, but let's just put him on the roster.
No doubt. And I think that's something cool that you see when there's players like Ricky White's been an extremely productive kid at UNLV for years now. And I think it's a super big endorsement for the kid. And it says a lot about their character football wise. When you're like, well, yeah, he's our star receiver and he has 5 blocked punts, right? I think that's something, right, that a lot of players, as they ascend the depth chart, want to do everything they can to get off of special teams. Right, because that's I'm tired from playing, right? I don't need to do that. That's a backup player's job, right? That's their way to impress. I don't need to do that. And for a kid to come out and do that and take the amount of pride in being a really effective special team player, that to be honest, at the NFL level, I don't know if Ricky will be the featured option in an offense, right? And so the ability for you to be harder to get rid of and say, well, no, he's a legitimate asset for us on special teams is a huge deal. And I agree, a steal for someone on day 3. Productive receiver. I don't think he needs to be limited to being only a special team guy, right? We've seen that kind of Matt Slater and Steve Tasker, like you mentioned, some of these guys that were really well known for being these special teams aces. Ricky can help with that aspect. I think he can also function and survive at receiver, even if you had to take that away from him. And again, he's some team's going to get a really nice player on day 3.
Hey, man, you know your stuff. There's no doubt, Owen. That's why Eric suggested we get in touch with you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the week as you have it, and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much.
Owen Reese, Shrine Bowl National Scout with us on 365 Sports as they continue the workouts. Great follow. Obviously, the East-West Shrine Bowl also has their own Twitter feed and their own page if you want to go to that. Coming up, Manny Navarro, he covers college football's transfer portal for theathletic.com, and Babe Laufenberg, color analyst, Cowboys Radio, his thoughts about Brian Schottenheimer and that move the day after he was introduced, off the radar, top 5, and more. And this is 365 Sports. Paul Thorpe and Doug Furch are going to help you if you have an event somewhere outside of, let's say, the Waco area or even Texas, and you need it promoted, whether it's in Salt Lake City, Denver. Is it possibly, maybe it's in Birmingham or Orlando. If there's an event and you're a Baylor alum and you're trying to put something together, watch parties, of course, a big deal during football season, but also if you want sometimes during the men's basketball and women's basketball season too. If you have something in which you need promoted, or you want to keep up with what's happening around here in campus in the Central Texas area, go to their Facebook page, the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement, or even to Baylor.edu. They'll have the information for you to keep up with what's happening with Baylor.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs.
365 Sports, a busy 4 o'clock hour. Babe Laufenberg around the corner. We'll have Manny Navarro from theathletic.com here momentarily. And then also Craig it off the radar as well at the end of the hour. Tomorrow, Baylor Director of Athletics Mac Rhodes in studio with us, along with other guests, Ross Tucker, who covers the NFL. He will join us at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Mac will be in studio a little bit after that time. And Zach Gelb, Infinity Sports Network, who will be at Radio Row in New Orleans as well with his show. Emery Winter running the mothership next to Garrett Ross, who is the mothership. Emery is dialing up, already editing away things that we'll put up tonight on 365 Sports tonight on the CW. And Andrew, who sometimes, because of where he sits behind the screen that we have, I don't see him.
Yeah,
he's not a real big talker.
We have a new set in the room, and Smokey didn't see it until I told him about it. I was concerned because it's looked quite different than it has.
It did look like that was just cleaned up, is what you did. It was always there, right? The set.
No,
where was it?
Jack built it today. There's like a backdrop and a bear head.
The table. The
table is there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the desk is there.
All right, okay.
But you didn't notice the bear. Well, you'll see it.
I did
tomorrow.
Yeah,
like somebody, I think that's where we're going to put Mac Rose when he comes in to the studio. So you'll see it on camera tomorrow. But you didn't see it in real life until I pointed out, and I still don't think you really saw it. It's the behind, not the in front.
You know, I see the wooden planks or whatever behind the background, and Jack is like Tim the Tool Man and likes to build stuff. Anything he say that caught you guys' attention? Obviously, it's good to hear the Colorado receivers. I love what he was saying about Shedeur. He's not working out, not throwing, doing anything like that, but getting some of that, not out of the way, but getting some of that cleared off his table, talking to various teams.
Yeah, and, you know, really, there's only going to be, I mean, you do, it's kind of a limited number of interviews or like formal interviews you do. I know that some teams will talk to him, but if you pick anywhere after about fifth and are not ready to, you know, trade a bunch of draft picks to get up there, you might be wasting your time talking to him, you know, because he's one of the only two quarterbacks that's going to carry a first-round grade. And depending on the service you look at, some people don't have first-round grades on either of those two quarterbacks. So who knows? But it's Cam Ward and him are going to be the two quarterbacks off the board in the first round for sure. If somebody else sneaks in there, maybe because it's a quarterback. But yeah, so get some of that out of the way, especially if it's a team that might be thinking about, like, should we do this? But we have the 16th pick. You know, do we really want to package all that and move up if he's there? But yeah, it's good. And I think because of how he reacted to things in 2023 and the early part of this season when things weren't going well, he's going to have to – I think that's really what he's going to have to explain for. It's not going to be for anything else. Like, he's never gotten in trouble. His brother has gotten in trouble. Shiloh's gotten in trouble. That's going to be a big thing that he has to deal with. But Shedeur's never been in trouble for anything. His thing is going to be, what kind of a leader are you? How are you going to we got to build around you? How's the team going to react to you? And are you a selfish guy, or are you just a guy who's got a lot of bravado?
Yeah, Shiloh will have to answer things of like, why was the defense better when you were not there? Like at times. And yeah, certainly off the field, the whole teacher incident.
Yeah.
That just sort of came and went, but was obviously a very serious deal. And yeah, whatever else, if you're anybody in this draft, they've picked apart your entire background, so it's not like Shiloh alone, but those are a couple of things that, yeah, he'll have to answer for, but everybody's answering everything about everything in their lives. So that's just part of the process. But I'm glad to hear that Colorado's guys are representing well. I mean, it's an easy school to sell wide receivers on, I would think, although a big part of that sell is also the quarterback who's now leaving. So I think it'll be imperative for Julian Lewis or Caden Salter or whoever to fill those shoes pretty quickly, because, you know, there's a juggernaut recruiting-wise there. But can they actually carry over the momentum, I think, will be the question next year, to, like, build a rhythm of this isn't Shedeur and Travis Hunter and Deion Colorado. This is just Deion Colorado football. So, like, players change, but the mood, the vibe, everything stays the same. That's what they're going to have to show next year, or hope to show next year. But what were you talking about at the beginning about Shedeur? Are you talking about him sliding? Is that what you were
No, like
referring
it depends on like what your grade is. Like what would be, like if I have the 20th pick and I need a quarterback,
There's no way he lasts all there.
Should I bother even talking to him?
Yeah, there's no chance he's
like
at 20.
the only way that you should talk to him is if you're at 20 and you want to say, all right, well, we're going to mortgage the future drafts.
So you're talking about
to go get him.
The Commanders don't need to go talk to Shador
Or
if they needed a quarterback.
Yeah,
right?
like so. Yeah, if you're anywhere after, let's just say the top 10.
Okay, yeah.
If you're anywhere after the top 10, I don't know why you'd waste an interview on him. Like,
yeah,
to me, unless you were kicking the tires to see, like, should we get bold?
Because it's like the transfer portal. Maybe it comes in handy later, where he doesn't work out wherever he is, and 2 years from now you want to go get him. So I think it's not a bad thing to do your due diligence because you don't know when you'll cross paths. But I can see where you're coming from with a waste of time. I think Shador's going to go very quickly. Although Cam might be the number one guy right now for some people. I've seen that kind of flip-flop around. But, yeah, I think if you're late in the draft, you have no shot at Shador. It looks like the Giants could very well want a quarterback there, but we'll see how that goes. That's going to be the big talking point is Shador, Cam, and where they actually go, what order and to who. But right now, a lot of smoke on Cam Ward being a Tennessee Titan, and then the probability, I guess, that would leave Shador with the Giants, right? Because Cleveland's not going to go spend more money on a quarterback, you wouldn't think, with all they have already.
Well, I mean, they've got a bunch of they're all their guys are on one year deals. Deshaun Watson's not going to play this year, or probably ever again.
It sucks for whoever's going there.
Yeah,
just pretty much like forever. Pretty much forever. I mean, we watched some really great players leave this very town, get drafted by Cleveland, and just completely flatline as far as pros. Now, some of that was on them, not mature enough, whatever the case may be, but I do think there was a pattern of they went to one specific organization and none of them worked out there, and then went maybe to other places to have varying levels of success. So, yeah, that's a tough spot, but if anybody could go in there and, win them some games or turn it around, I do think there are some guys like Travis Hunter or, who else would be up there near the top of the list? Abdul Carter. Obviously those guys could go in there and make immediate impacts. But, I think Shador and Cam will be a fun little quarterback duo to watch as rookies. Beyond that, a lot of question marks about that group overall. But I'm still intrigued by Quinn Ewers. I'm still intrigued by some of these other guys because they might not be the sure things at the top, but they're still interesting players after watching them in college.
If you're Cleveland has the exact same, pick in the second round.
Yeah.
So would you take Quinn Ewers at that spot?
If you could get Travis Hunter early on, I'm sure that's probably what the Cleveland podcast will be discussing a lot over these upcoming months is what's your best maximized value. So, you don't need to get a guy right away, and I don't think that changes their fortunes that much. So, probably would be the way to go in their situation. But
do I need to text Manny?
No, I just text him. No matter what, we have Babe around the corner. Babe Laufenberg will join us. And so I told Manny we have 5:10 or maybe 5:30 available in the 5 o'clock hour. I don't want to get all jumbled up with getting all crammed together. So we'll move on from that if he's available. Okay. He said he was available today.
Whatever you figure out with him, that's great. I did see a mock draft from CBS that had Ashton Genty to the Cowboys at number 12, Paul.
Most of them do.
It's fiction, obviously.
Well, most of them do, and that would be great. I would love that. I would love it for Brian Schottenheimer. That would be, and he's a big run the ball guy. Remember, he was the one who wouldn't let Russ cook. Because they don't. Here's the thing: they don't need to let Dak cook. Like they need to run the ball and protect Dak. Like that's a big deal that they haven't done the last couple years. So Ashton Genty at 12 to the Cowboys would be great. If he's gone or they decide to not go that way, I will only accept Cam Scatteraboo in a later round, or we're going to have a problem. I will be meeting with Will McClay.
Yeah, he's going to sell a lot of jerseys wherever he goes. I think Genty will too. I think this running back group, it's kind of nice to see them actually matter and be talked about respectfully, not like these third tier dogs. And I don't mean that in the nice way of talking about football players, but it's felt like they were just like lower class citizens or something these past few years, which is just odd. But that's changed clearly based on Ashton Genty in particular. And I think it's going to be a really big draft for Texas in the first round. A lot of the mocks that I saw one that saw the Commanders getting Matthew Golden late in the first round, which I think would be a good pickup for them. They can certainly use more wide. I mean, wide receiver is pretty good, actually, but you can always use more there.
They need one that's a little bit different, like McLaurin.
Like smaller and crafty like Matthew Golden.
That's
you know what, McLaurin? He looked like a new man because he had somebody that he could get the ball to him.
You know what?
And he's so explosive. No one really ever could see that when he was with Washington for the first couple of years.
It's you're going to work every day and you know what you can do, especially if you're a receiver that's like a receiver is totally dependent on one guy. Your running back, is dependent on a lot of things, but the receiver is totally dependent on the fact that you've got to get the ball to me. I can be open and all that, or you have to just throw it to me and I'll find my way open. But yeah, he was in the desert and now, man, he is in the oasis. That's for sure. And he's such an intense dude when he gets going. I guess that's why they call him Scary Terry. But yeah, if you can find somebody that kind of complements him, I think they drafted Luke McCaffrey last year. De'Ami Brown's been really good.
De'Ami Brown's pretty damn good at times.
He's pretty good. But, if you can throw, those guys keep developing, you throw in a guy like Matthew Golden, someone who can burn like that.
Zacharias, is that right?
Zacharias, yeah.
Zacharias,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys. But, when you have the ball thrown almost right where it's supposed to be a lot. Now, he had a couple of missed throws on Sunday, but it makes your receivers look a lot better than sometimes they've been because they haven't had the accuracy to catch the football.
I'm with names. Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus is what it is, not Zacharias. Zacchaeus is the third wide receiver for Washington. I want to correct that before we move any further. But, yeah, he was pretty good too. I wonder
tough as nails.
What kind of attention they'll get from other teams, he and De'Ami Brown. But, yeah, Scary Terry's freaking awesome. That dude deserves it all. And if you watch a lot of the Commanders, behind the scenes stuff, every team does all the same kind of stuff, really. But it is interesting how just well respected he is and how much people are happy to see him win after the last few years. And him just basically being a really good player on an island that no one even knew existed, basically, for the last several years. And they just discovered it's oh, wow. And it's no, he's been this good. It's just he's finally got the dude to actually get it to him, and he's got players around to take pressure off of him. And so I'm excited for him. I mean, he's already 6 years in, I think, to his career. So it's how much can you be great for how long? But the fact that he's even getting to taste a little bit compared to what it looked like his career was going to be made up of, which was a decade of just drowning in D.C. and drowning in losses. Now his whole second half of his career looks entirely different because of what happened this year. So I'm happy for a guy like that. He's somebody who is far and away one of the most respected and big time leaders on that entire roster. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if this is an off the radar. Craig, do you have anything about Kingsbury?
No.
No, I'll punch you.
Okay. He's
New Orleans?
No, he's told them take your etouffee and shove it. I'm staying here.
Oh God, that's good
Yeah,
news.
he's
It's good
staying.
news for Daniels because he gets to have the same guy, and Kingsbury can build on it.
If you're Cliff Kingsbury right now, do you stay in Washington where the vibes are good? You've got the most exciting young quarterback in the game right now, or you go to New Orleans and you have to make it work with Derek Carr, Derek Carr and Cliff Kingsbury don't mesh as the skill sets go. Because you're going to have to make it work with them for a year or two just because of salary cap. I would stay in Washington and then wait for somebody else to come open. If the job I would have wanted for him is if they would have offered it to him, but they went with Ben Johnson, which I think is great, would have been the Bears. That's what I want. If you're not giving me Jaden Daniels, then give me Caleb Williams, right? Give me that kind of potential.
What does it say that? I mean, there's other reasons you hire a head coach, but you do have Caleb and Cliff's right there, and you're nah, we're going to go a different direction.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder what.
Well, part of it is just Ben Johnson's been so fantastic.
Yeah, I guess that's just it. I mean, it's really that simple. But, Cliff and Caleb reuniting. I mean, it's not like they set the world on fire necessarily, but, they would have probably been a pretty good little 1-2 punch. But Ben Johnson will be just fine. I didn't know about Cliff. I know that the signs were pointing to him being a guy that felt like it was going to be
It looked like to me he was having the time of his life.
He looked like he was literally totally fine if he just stayed in Washington. Yeah. Some people say that and then they bolt, but I mean, he really, and especially with, you know how fans are, and we're fans too, but he really wants to be here. Like, I know he said that about everywhere else he's been in his coaching career, but he really loves it here. He's not going to leave here. Like, it's different. We all feel that way about our teams, or hope that way about our teams. So I know I'm probably halfway delusional here, but when you watch Cliff Kingsbury, it's like, no, I do think he actually really enjoys just being the OC in Washington right now, and he doesn't really care to go just jump first opportunity to a head coaching gig. So it's great news for Jaden Daniels and great news for Washington, and yeah, that's awesome.
Who mentioned that he's the most exciting young quarterback in the league?
I did.
Kim is, of course, very sensitive about Texas Tech and Mahomes, who's 29 now.
No, Kim, he's not young anymore, Kim.
Yeah, he's middle-aged.
He's middle-aged.
NFL middle-aged.
He's got tread in the tires. Like, look, hey, here's the deal. This is how you know that Patrick Mahomes isn't young anymore. He's doing insurance commercials. Okay? Jaden Daniels isn't to insurance commercials yet. Patrick Mahomes is doing insurance commercials. The other guys in those commercials, like Aaron Rodgers was older, Derrick Henry older. Like, when you're talking about insurance, which is something I never thought I would do in conversation, but as a 44-year-old man, it happens to me quite a bit. Like, you'd be like, hey, who's your insurance? You've done it. Like, who's your insurance guy? So, yeah, that's where Patrick Mahomes is. So, no, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the game, but he's not young anymore.
We mentioned the Texas Tech tight end, our guest did, Owen Reese. That was our Texas Tech mention of the day, so you can just calm down, chill out, go putt a little bit in your backyard. All right, thank you very much. We have a lot of fun with that. When we come back, Babe Laufenberg, Cowboys radio color analyst, on Brian Schottenheimer and what all that means and his thoughts about it. And Craig's off the radar. We'll see if we can retrack with Manny Navarro for the 5 o'clock hour, his thoughts about the college football portal. This is 365 Sports. I went by Don Chimodor and Coffee Beans the other day. Joshua and Cheyenne were there. And I said, hey, I'm getting ready to go play a round of golf. It was on Saturday mid-morning. They open up usually around 10. I said, I need a little batch of cigars for the round of golf. I hadn't played golf in 3 weeks or so, maybe 4. Weather, issues, travel, whatever. And so I walk into the 48-foot walk-in humidor. Cheyenne walks up to there's like dozens of these boxes of cigars. Walks up, grabs one of these, 2 of these, 3 of these, hands them to me. She goes, how about this? Because she knew what I like to smoke as far as when I smoke cigars. And 90% of the time, unless I'm with my brothers in Florida, the times I smoke cigars when I'm playing golf. And walked out the door, had the batch of cigars that I needed for that day, and then 2 or 3 others that I'll have for at some point when I ever get back to playing golf. Going to be in New Orleans starting on Sunday, so it won't be this weekend, maybe Saturday. They have a 48-foot walk-in humidor, Padron, Cohiba, Rocky Patel, Romeo and Julieta, Macanudo, just phenomenal cigars. One of my favorite is La Fontana. They have the Torpedo, and then, of course, they have the longer Churchill. It's a little bit thinner than most Churchill cigars. And, of course, they have CBD for you, Vita Dreams, if you need some help at night trying to just kind of calm down and go to sleep. They also have for bad days, which is a gummy that will knock you and all that pain out of you. Not knock you out, but knock the pain out of you. I tried it with my back issues. I have to learn exactly how much I should take out of a gummy. It's Don Chimodor and Coffee Beans in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
365 Sports in the nearing the middle part of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll take you up until 6. Babe Laufenberg, Cowboys radio color analyst, unbelievable what he does, and one of the best people you could ever know when we know him. Babe Laufenberg with us on 365 Sports. Babe, thank you very much for your time. You're around the team. You know the intermixings of the team. You watched the press conference yesterday. Your overall thoughts about what the Cowboys presented in introducing Brian Schottenheimer?
Well, I think as in everything the Cowboys do, it was kind of interesting. But, it's one of those things, let's face it, he's not a sexy hire. I don't think anybody had Brian Schottenheimer on their bingo card. I certainly didn't. But I do think you give him the benefit of the doubt. He has to prove that he can't do it before we can say, oh, he's going to be a terrible head coach. We really don't know much about him. We know his last name, Schottenheimer. He's the son of Marty. And, he's been an assistant, a long-time assistant, obviously in the NFL. And nobody's seen fit to hire him as a head coach. But I will say this, Smoak. So I'll go back, about 140 years.
Yeah.
I get recruited to Stanford. Bill Walsh was the head coach. Now, Bill Walsh was with the Cincinnati Bengals. He had that West Coast offense going there. They had great offenses. Paul Brown retired in 1976. Paul Brown, obviously, one of the architects, really, of the NFL and one of the great innovators. And he had Bill Walsh on his staff and passed him over for somebody no one has ever heard of, probably Tiger Bill Johnson lasted 1 year. He didn't think Walsh was head coaching material. So Coach Walsh felt like he had to go prove himself as a head coach in college in order to get back kind of to the NFL as a head coach. So went to Stanford, was there 3 years, had good teams, with a school that's kind of hard to win, hard to get kids in, and goes to the 49ers. And obviously the rest is history. Now, again, he was 47 years old. So the fact that Brian Schottenheimer is 51 and no one has seen fit to hire him as a head coach, I just don't think it's disqualifying in terms of, then he can't be any good.
Babe, I think that the issue is, what are the Joneses going to change about the way that they build the roster?
Nothing.
Yeah. So
Nothing.
So Brian Schottenheimer, it's on him. It's kind of like having an argument with your wife. Like, okay, I'm willing to do that. What are you willing to do? Like, no. This is on you. And so Brian Schottenheimer here is the one who's going to have to find a way to work the magic around that, isn't he?
Yeah, I always think you have to navigate things over there. As you do, I'll be honest, with most franchises. I was telling a story last week. I can't tell you the number of people who left the Cowboys in whatever position. Could have been coaching, could have been a front office position. And they thought, man, this is really screwed up. And they go somewhere else, right? Another NFL franchise. And they said, oh, man, I thought we were screwed up in Dallas, but this place. So the grass isn't always greener. Now, the interesting thing with Brian Schottenheimer is he's been there for 3 years. The first year he was there kind of helping out the defense, lending an eye. The last two, obviously, is the fact, offensive coordinator, but he didn't call the plays. But he has seen the way things operate there. So he has a little lay of the land. I think as much as Mike McCarthy thought he knew what he was getting into here, until you get there and you get there as a head coach, I don't think you can ever really prepare for everything that comes with being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And that's from the Cowboys front office all the way down to, forget about playing a noon game on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, you might get 2 a year. So your schedule, and it's interesting because I don't want to say it gets overlooked, but it's like, you're playing Monday night. I've been there. I'm on the charters. We come back from a Sunday night game in New York, and it's 4 a.m. when you land. I'm wiped out for 3 days, and I don't have to do anything. But as a coaching staff, you're right back in that next morning preparing for the next game. And there are so many of those that you deal with. And what's interesting is, Washington this year obviously came out of nowhere, right? The Commanders did a great job. Great. They look like they're going to be a force to contend with, obviously, with Jaden Daniels. But they're going to experience that now this year. They played a bunch of Sunday afternoon games last year, and I guarantee you, they're going to start hitting the Sunday night and the Monday nights, and it's going to be a marquee team with Jaden Daniels there. So, you have different things you have to navigate through, and that's a big one with the Cowboys.
I had somebody tell me when his name started surfacing, really sometime last week, that if he sits down with you, Schottenheimer, or during the press conference, if you're a Cowboys fan, even if you're furious because you don't know much about him or you wanted a bigger bet, that he can maybe get you to stop for a second and go, damn, this guy knows what he's talking about. Did you get that impression at all yesterday?
Well, I did, and I've been around him now, and we've had a few conversations, just he and I, about talking football, and there's no question he's a kind of a charismatic, looky in the eye kind of guy, speaks well, the whole 9 yards. But the interesting thing for me about that is probably two of the worst press conferences, right, in the history of football, were Nick Sirianni and Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's talking about biting kneecaps off, and then we're going to get up and bite the other one off, and everybody was like, who is this guy? And yet we see Nick Sirianni, he's been to the playoffs in all 4 of his years since he's been at Philly, and he's going to be in the Super Bowl now in 2 of those 4 years, obviously with a chance to win it this year. And we know what Dan Campbell has done. So sometimes I just don't know that you can always walk away from a press conference and say, wow, they did or did not get the right guy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Ben. Do you expect to see the offense change significantly? I mean, this is the offense they were running and they wanted continuity, but Brian Schottenheimer is more of a run-the-ball guy than maybe Mike McCarthy is.
Well, I think obviously it's going to be who's at your disposal. I do see the Cowboys trying to get a early round running back. By early round, I mean top 3 rounds. I haven't dived into the draft yet to see, who's there, what number and all. Obviously, they have the 12th pick in the draft. I think the only one, as I look at it again, before diving into any of that, Gentry appears to be the only one out of Boise State that's going to be maybe a top 10 type of running back. But the draft comes around and you never know. But I think every coach too, Smoak, everybody's going to want to put their fingerprint on it. So, yes, they're going to keep the core of the offense, but I'm sure when Brian Schottenheimer was there, you're a foot soldier, so to speak. So if the head coach says this is what we're going to do, then that's what you do. But I'm sure there were times where he said, boy, I don't like this so much. I think we should do it out of this formation and with this guy, but you're going to get outvoted when you're not the head coach. Now he has the vote.
Yeah, he said yesterday during an interview with Jane Slater, he mentioned that, he had great respect, that coaches all are in the same profession, fraternity. But he also said, listen, did we always get along, he and McCarthy? No, we did not. And so it sounds like he has his own plan. Babe, what are the 2 or 3, with all the searches Jerry's had? The Parcells thing was shocking because you always thought there's no way Bill could do that with that organization. But he also has a big enough ego he could do it with anybody. The Jerry thing was brilliant. What is it 1, 2, or 3? Check it off the list that Jerry needs to see when it comes to hiring a head coach. And is it one of the ones just familiarity to the person he's going to hire?
You know what, Smoke? I couldn't tell you what the priority is because Schottenheimer came out of left field, right? The Bob Dylan movie got released, right? A complete unknown. And here comes women. What? For me, in a very different way, and you were here for this, Smoke, you know, thank God we're both old. It was very similar to Barry Switzer coming the next day after Jimmy, where you said, wait a minute, what? And I was getting a text on Friday night of last week of Schottenheimer. Schottenheimer could be the guy. And I'm like, Schottenheimer? And I saw that, you know, they had given him an interview or something, but I thought that was almost perfunctory. Like, bring him in, pick his brain, talk to him for an hour. Thanks for stopping by. Here's a door prize. Good luck wherever you're going to go. So, again, it doesn't mean, I have to be clear, it doesn't mean he's not going to come in. He's not going to do a great job. This might be the greatest hire in the history of football, but there's no question it came out of left field. And it, you know, he was not interviewing for other head coaching jobs, hasn't been a head coach candidate for about, 12, 13 years. So it was a little strange, no question, but I wish him the best of luck.
What do you think about Matt Eberflus coming back?
Now, I do like that. I do know Matt. I've seen his defenses. I understand. If you're watching Chicago games, at the end of games, you say, what are they doing? But he, you know, that's a great hire. That's a solid hire. Now, I will say I would have been fine Mike Zimmer coming back. And if you wanted to go with that notion of continuity, they could have kept it with him. And I think they would have been a lot better next year than they were last year. Just they didn't have the pieces really to play his defense. You know, they're bringing in people, veteran guys, training camp in the first 4 weeks of the season, trying to fill gaps to play his defense. And that was a struggle. And then obviously they lost a ton of people. That always kills you. But Matt Eberflus, no, that's a solid hire. I always look at it like this too, Smoke. If I became a head coach, which obviously isn't going to happen, they said, but here's the deal. You're going to be the head coach, but Matt Eberflus is going to be your D coordinator. I'd say, yep, fine with that.
Okay.
Fine.
Yep.
It's like if you said, hey, you're going to be the head coach and you've got Joe Burrow is going to be your quarterback. I said, okay, good with that. Good with that.
Babe, what do you think Dak's reasonable window is? And then, like, because is it this contract that they really have to try to maximize with him?
Yeah, the window's an interesting thing. I remember Joe Burrow last year was asked about, they had a couple guys going off in free agency and this. And, after they lost a playoff game, someone asked him, hey, do you feel like your window is closing? He said, the window's open as long as I'm here. I love that answer. But, hey, Dak is, I don't want to say he's getting older because let me just tell you, these guys are going to play till they're 40. The way they're protecting, Mahomes may play till he's 80.
Yeah.
So it's not, you're not getting beat up like you once did. Now, that's not to say that these guys aren't taking shots and it's a physical game, but it's just changed so much that these guys are going to play a long time. That being said, Dak is kind of going to be an old 32. He's had major injuries. I don't even know about ripping a hamstring off of your bone, how you come back, in what shape you come back or what percentage you come back. He clearly has not been a runner over the last couple of years, so it's not like you're looking at a Lamar Jackson and saying, wow, this is going to hurt his game. But I'm a believer in Dak. I've liked Dak, and I don't mean as I love him as a person, obviously, but I've always felt like, again, if you give me Dak if you give me Dak Prescott as my quarterback, I can win with that.
Babe, speaking of winning, you mentioned Mahomes. It's been at times this year, the offense for them has been a struggle. The defense has played at an incredible rate, but it looks like they are, of course, it's the postseason. They always find a way. There's always that one extra play or a scramble or a throw or something. Try to explain what you see when you watch him, and now been a starter, 7 years, and every year at least in a championship game, an AFC championship game or better. It's remarkable.
It is remarkable, and that when he has been to the AFC Championship game and lost it, I think two of them in overtime and one by a field goal or something. So it's been incredible. And the thing that I'm impressed with watching him, of course, you can name 100 things that you're impressed with, but it just looks like he's kind of playing 7-on-7. It looks like the heart rate never goes up. He is not a 4-3 guy. He's not a Lamar Jackson running away from people, but just has an uncanny ability, right, to just sidestep, move here, step up, step out, get rid of the ball before it comes. Obviously, we know the arm angles. He throws an underhand sidearm. He navigates around people. But to me, the whole thing is just how calm he is. And if you turn the sound off, right, and you just walked into the living room and you didn't know what time the game started, and he could be on the final play of needing to get the ball in the end zone, and he looks the same as he does as he's warming up on the sideline before the game. So that, hey, maybe if you're that good, Smoak, you don't get nervous because you know how to draw and you know you're going to get it done. But he's impressive from the get-go, and I really like him. I don't know how you don't like Pat Mahomes unless you're in the AFC West and you're trying to beat him, or a defensive coordinator. But
or the Bills.
He just checks all the boxes as a person.
Yeah.
You know what?
Now, the Bills have seen enough of him, haven't they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. People hate him because he's good. Like, there's no – it's just how it was. I mean, I remember growing up a young Cowboys fan, and, like, everybody who would beat the Cowboys, like, well, I don't like that guy. And you're like, well, I'm just mad because he's beating the Cowboys. Like, it's not – it has nothing to do – like, nothing to do with him, but, like, you're tired of it. And I think people are just kind of like, okay, we get it. You're amazing. Can you just be not amazing for – like 1 minute of a game and
right, or just not be amazing against my team this week.
Exactly. Yeah, like in the close game, like that minute that you're like better than everybody, just don't do that one time. But can you compare him to anybody that you played against where when you're looking across, you're like, just please clock run out. Do not give this guy one extra second.
It'd be Joe Montana. You know, in my era, but, you had Elway, you had Marino. Those guys were, I came out in 83, which is the same draft as Marino and Elway and Jim Kelly. It's funny, when I would see Gary Kubiak, right? He came out in that 83 draft. I think he was a 9th rounder, but I would say, hey, how come they never talk about us? We're in that 83 draft. We never get a mention.
It's great.
But, Montana was that guy, right, where you just looked at it and, hey, Cincinnati experienced it twice, right? Just the way Buffalo has experienced it against Kansas City and Mahomes, Cincinnati experienced it against Montana and the 49ers. The touchdown drive in Miami, 92 yards, and it was was funny because Sam Weish, I'll go down memory lane here a little bit, but Sam Weish was the head coach for the Bengals, and in that second Super Bowl where they played them, and he was on the sideline, and he said basically down the road, but he said, I just looked over and I said, oh man, I have seen this before. Unfortunately, he was on the other side of the field than on the same side as Montana, but he's like, yeah, I've seen this before.
Babe, we appreciate it. You mentioned Bill Johnson. Tiger Johnson, right? He's the one that
Bill Johnson.
He was the first ever player. He was from Tyler, Texas. He went to Tyler Junior College, which is where I started my educational career. And when you brought that up, he was like the first person ever out of Tyler to play pro football. But Bill Tiger Johnson, when you mentioned that,
oh wow,
like, Paul, you know where he was born? No, actually, I'm saying. He lived in Fort Myers for a long time, which is where
Fort Town.
Yeah,
my hometown.
Yeah, A&M guy, and
wow, look at that.
Yeah, all sorts of connections.
You mentioned Tiger Bill Johnson, and he's almost like a trivia question, right? Who replaced Paul Brown as a head coach? But look at you're all up on Tiger Bill Johnson. I love it.
Yeah, heck of a player. He was a fantastic player, buddy. Hey, thanks, babe. I know you're chilling. Appreciate your time. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you, guys. Craig, Paul, you guys have a great week.
You too. Paul, Babe Laufenberg with Craig and Paul, David Smoak, 365 Sports. He is great at what he does. His personality, Babe, a long-time NFL player, always very self-humor about himself. But he is fantastic with Brad Sham, the voice of the Cowboys, with the broadcast.
They're so fun to listen to. And, it's if you do get frustrated with, I don't like this broadcast team, and you're a Cowboys fan, you don't have to, sometimes you have that problem with, you don't like the radio crew either, but that's not the case with a Cowboys fan. I've never heard one person say, the radio broadcast stinks. No, it's amazing.
Yep, they have got a great thing together, no question about it. Craig, and Off the Radar, just talked to Manny Navarro. It's the same email that I provided Garrett, so he can't come on later because he's coaching soccer. So I'll work on trying to see if we can set him up tomorrow or sometime on Thursday and Friday and get him back on the show. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak and Off the Radar. And until then, so last night, I had not eaten. It was kind of late in the night. I had a salad, and my salad is always whatever you get in one of those bags. I like the crispy salad, and I love carrots. I love radishes. Sometimes a Roma tomato, get that cut up, and then whatever seasoning I use or dressing that I use. And I was just trying to be smart, trying to watch my weight a little bit. I'd gotten a little bit up close to a number that I told myself and promised myself I would never go past. And then about 45 minutes later, I was damn, I'm still hungry. So what I ended up doing was able to have some chicken that I had left over. I made some chicken fajitas. I wanted to order a pizza so badly. One, because I wanted to not have to worry about cooking something, and putting the fajitas together was not a big deal. So I went online to Marcos and looked around, and of course they have the real big pizza deal, 30% off, all menu price pizzas, and the code word is big deal. You can order online, have them deliver it or pick it up. And then they show, they had the video of this big pepperoni magnifico. And then there's also one that's got the pepperoni and Italian sausage and some bell peppers on top. It just makes you hungry as hell. But it's not that I said no to Marcos, because I'm going to have pizza tonight. But they have all sorts of specials. If you go to Marcos.com, fastest growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco. Bob Mock, the owner here. Marcos Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
It's the first of the year. It's the first month of the year. How many times have you said, man, I got to start working out. I need to get back in shape or get fit. Need to drop a few pounds. It happens every year. And how many times every year the month of January rolls by, and the next thing you know, you really haven't done much. It's almost like the American way, right? But how about now? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has set up a fitness bingo. Sweat, play, and win. Reach your goals. There are 5 columns, top to bottom, and here are just some of those. This is where you check it off as you go. Take an indoor cycling class, attend a yoga class, walk 10,000 steps in a day, attend a bar class, complete a 2-minute plank, do 100 push-ups in one day, run a couple of miles on the treadmill. At least try. Do 50 squats in a single session, work out with a partner, drink 2 liters of water per day for a week. Try a group fitness class you've never done before. Stretch for 15 minutes. Do any kind of outdoor workout. Spend 15 minutes in the sauna after a workout. Do a workout with dumbbells. Take a body shaping class. There are so many different parts of this fitness bingo. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Right, welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports, segment on Tuesdays and Thursdays, taking a look at just a grab bag of stories. So that's what we will dive into here. And normally out of our regular discussion topics and points, but I do dabble in a little college football if it warrants. I don't think that'll be the case today. I think we'll stick mostly with the pros for the next few minutes. But one thing I typically have done throughout the last few seasons and seen it become more of a discussion point as everybody just tries to figure out every little in and out of every aspect of every sport. But one thing I've talked about in this segment for a while, and now you see it being a bigger topic, is TV ratings, right? Always bring those up, and I wanted to bring them up here because there is definitely a notable rating from this past weekend, and that is from, well, one of the conferences, and it's not the NFC, as the NFC conference championship game between the Commanders and the Eagles was down. It was actually a multi-year low for the NFC championship game, third least watched NFC championship game since 2013. The only 2 games that pulled in lower numbers in the past 12 years were the Packers and 49ers in 2020, the Vikings and Eagles in 2018. And look, they're still bringing in 40+ million viewers, so let's not act like that's like, oh, God, they're terrible. No, they're actually still pretty good. But just ahead of that, this Commanders-Eagles game, 44.2 million watched that game across Fox Sports. Least watched NFL conference title game in the last 4 years since the Bills and Chiefs in 2021. Least watched NFC title game since Packers 49ers in 2020. Now, that was when they still weren't including the out-of-home, according to Sports Media Watch, where I get a lot of the ratings info. So not a very popular game, and yet it had 40+ million people watching it. But based on how TV advertisers want to position it, it's like, oh, big time down. It's 4-year low. There's 44 million people watch that Eagles and Commanders game. So headlines can be deceiving in some ways, but that's fine. I don't think we care if 4 people were watching that game. We were going to watch Commanders-Eagles. It turned out to not be a great game, though. I mean, it was an ass-whooping. The Eagles took it to them, and I don't think that, much like the national championship game, really played into a bigger audience. But it also maybe didn't have quite the level of star power that its counterpart on the AFC side of things had. Because, wait for it, the Chiefs and Bills, what did I just tell you? 44.2 million for Commanders and Eagles. 57.7 million, the average viewers for Bills and Chiefs. So 13 million more average for that game. An absolutely massive number, the most watched conference championship game, period, since 2010, when the Vikings and the Saints pulled in 57.9 million viewers. And according to Sports Media Watch, the only other conference title game with a larger recorded audience was Cowboys 49ers in 1982, which was said to have averaged like 68 million. I mean, crazy, but a much different world, obviously, 40 years ago in 1982 with cable and all of that. But this does, obviously there's the caveat of like out-of-home viewing in certain years. But the point is an absolutely monster number for Bills and Chiefs, 57.7 million viewers on average over on CBS. So big audience for that game.
82 championship game. The 81 season was Joe Montana to Dwight Clark in the back of the end zone over Everson Walls. And one of the most dramatic championship games, I remember watching that game. The 49ers were kind of a newbie onto the scene, and the Landry and the Cowboys had been running the NFC for the most part quite a bit. How many did they have for that game? 82 in 1982?
It was, according to this article, that was said to have averaged in 1982 68.7 million, so another 11 million on top of this new splash from the Chiefs. So, yeah, I mean, but
that's
unbelievable. But there was no Netflix. There was no streaming. There was nothing but cable. That's all you had. There was no 100 television channels. Like, dude, there's apps out there now, like the free apps. I don't know how much y'all have come across, but like when you stay in an Airbnb, sometimes they don't have jack crap for you to watch. Like you have to sign into your own Netflix or you have to just go with the free pay TV. And I have like a Samsung TV, so it has like just the Samsung free listings. And there's a lot of old reruns, but it's like hundreds of channels.
Yeah.
And so that didn't exist back then. Like there's so many things. So
distractions.
It makes it even more impressive. But yeah, 68 million back then is absolutely crazy. But to get nearly 60 million or nearly 58 million this year, I mean, that is crazy.
All right, first of all, an incredible game down to the wire.
Yes, that helps.
Two teams that have been on this collision course for the last 3 or 4 years. Two great big-name quarterbacks. The drama of trying to get to 3 in a row and win it, and a little bit of prime time. That didn't hurt either.
Yeah. No. It was in a great spot. A little bit of prime was at 6:30.
Oh, yeah, it's a 6:30 game.
6:30 game. So, that certainly was going to help it. I'm sure, look, Philly and D.C. as markets are gigantic, so it had nothing to do with that. I'm sure it just had to do with the fact that, Bills and Chiefs and this.
Well, it's been building up for years now.
Exactly. So
everybody's waiting for the Josh Allen redemption arc, or for the Chiefs to just keep a stranglehold.
It's at night. Also, one of the things you need to do on a travel to-do list when you're at an Airbnb, Craig, I'm glad you reminded me about this, is make sure you do log out of your Netflix because
oh really?
I have a couple times gotten home. And then, not watch Netflix for a couple days after that. And then I go on my Netflix, and I'm looking at, look, I can tell you one time I had a really, either a really enthusiastic, curious teenager or a super lesbian watching that. So, because it was just, straight across. And I was like, I don't know if I'd watch this lesbian drama that was there.
Go ask the wife just to make sure.
Yeah,
hey, honey.
I think she has her own login. I was like, hey, I promise you, I did not have time to watch this many movies.
Yeah, well, that's something to keep in mind when you go stay at an Airbnb for sure. But absolutely massive audience for the AFC title game of nearly 58 million people. So again, largest audience for an AFC title game dating back to 1988, most watched championship game for either conference since 2010, and the only conference title game with a larger recorded audience, as we mentioned, Cowboys-Niners in 1982, which had 11 million more viewers. But again, things a bit different from 1982 in terms of watching television. So I'm very curious of what the Super Bowl number looks like, because the immediate reaction to the Chiefs winning was, oh, great. We got the Chiefs and Eagles again. And I mentioned it a couple times yesterday. I'm still going to watch because it's the last football game of the year. What else am I going to be doing on Super Bowl Sunday? I plan on being in front of a TV and watching the game in some form or fashion. But I think that wave of Chiefs fatigue or rematch fatigue or whatever, I think we're going to see a massive number. I think we're going to see an absolutely massive number, and this indicates that we probably will, but I do think that the drama played into that one a little bit as well. But yeah, it does lead to a conversation, and this is when you start getting down the TV pathways. This is why I don't really try to delve too deep into it, but for those that are interested in it, it has led to a talking point on Sports Media Watch about the AFC being cooler than the NFC. I mean, look no further than having 13 million more people watching your championship game. But I think Jalen Hurts is pretty cool. I think Jaden Daniels is pretty cool. But it does seem like there's a kind of a narrative now about there being a bit of a gap in terms of popularity. And the AFC is the cool kids in class right now, whereas the NFC's got some work to do, I guess, in that regard. But I also feel like Lamar, Allen, Mahomes,
Burrow.
Burrow, like you've had all these big-time quarterbacks over the last few years, guys in the MVP race, and you've had that to some extent over on the NFC, but you're getting more of like Jared Goff, and I don't know. I think the cool quarterbacks plays into it a little bit, but do you think there's anything to it other than just like, it's also the Chiefs have won like 1 million Super Bowls here recently. They got all these other teams knocking at their door. I don't know. It was a part of the article I thought was interesting that they mentioned that.
How many people, I don't know if they're at this point, how many of them are watching the Chiefs because they're tired of the Chiefs and they want to see them lose?
A lot of people hate watch.
Because there's been those incredible logo franchises, whether it's the Lakers or the Cowboys or the Yankees or whatever. Are they at that point yet? Are they a team people can hate? Maybe because of the Taylor Swift thing that there's a little bit of ad nauseum about that.
I don't think you even need Taylor Swift, though. Like, if you don't like the Chiefs, there's plenty of reasons to not like them. They're the best.
How do you not like, other than the
But if
fatigue,
you add in that and you're not a fan or you just don't care, then it adds more fuel to you probably going the disliking route. But it is also notable because the NFC has largely been, for most of our entire lives, the most popular conference in terms of ratings and eyeballs and things like that. The NFC has always been kind of that draw, but now it's very much changed, and it's the AFC. So I think it has to do with quarterbacks. I think it has to do with a couple dynasties. You had the Patriots, now you have the Chiefs. And then you got a bunch of great teams that are trying to get to the Super Bowl, but the damn Chiefs are in the way. So, yeah, I just think there's interesting storylines, coaches, teams, and QBs. But, yeah, the AFC is the cool kid in class nowadays, which is a reversal in fortune. So massive, massive audiences, and still a lot of people watch that NFC Championship game, even if it was a multi-year low. 44 million plus, I think you would take that for a comparison. The Notre Dame-Ohio State game, which also got away from you early on in that game, but then came back and got a little interesting towards the end. That got 22.1 million, so that was half of the Commanders and Eagles. So, yeah, half for that and like a good, 30 million short of 20 million. Wait, what did I say?
44 and 22.
So that was so it's a good 35 million short.
Yeah.
The national championship game of the AFC championship game.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Did you hear they're changing the way they do the ratings now?
No.
It's going to be a hybrid of what they're going to bring in. We're going to know digital ratings for the first time ever.
Because there's always like this caveat of like, they did not start tracking Nielsen numbers till 2015, or they didn't count out of home viewing till 2020. So like all that's going to be under one umbrella, so you'll actually know how many people watch.
Yeah, and you'll also know like the streaming numbers too. Like you'll get all of those things, because those things weren't you would know the streaming numbers, but they weren't factored into ratings. So, if people stream something on somewhere else, they would not factor that into the ratings because the advertising's different, for the most, or it had been for a long time now.
You could get better ratings from the streaming than you can for radio and TV. And radio, I battled that damn thing for Arbitron and Nielsen for years when it's scientific based on who gets a ratings book.
Oh, is it? Well, Arbitron's a scam.
Yes.
It's a big gigantic scam.
Give an example. For example, you could have somebody that's at the office, a woman or a guy who's like running the office, and they get a book. It's like a little, and you could go from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. with an arrow, turn that in, and it means you owned 12 hours or so of a radio station. And it could skew the book.
There's a lot of scummy kind of like, you knew a guy that got the book, and so you tell him to just, hey, fill us in from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or whatever, and then it would make a massive difference, right? Just one person doing that. So if you found a person that happened to be a friend of a friend or something, hey, just tell them to fill it out this way, and it gets a huge boost.
Let's put it this way. In Waco, Texas, you might have 115 people get the book. Yeah. What is an envelope in the mail? You might have 115. And it's still a large city, over 100,000 people when you look at it proper. And they would do that based on zip codes or whatever. I never liked that.
It was frustrating. I know that like the couple big scandals where radio stations would have filling out like ratings parties where they would throw a remote and they'd have gotten their hands on some books and basically and give them out, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're the number one station in the market. Well, like, okay, 20 people came to your remote and filled it out because they're nerds.
Yep, that was very much an inexact science. So if that's changing, that's good and probably very much long overdue. But good to hear that TV will finally get under an umbrella, it sounds like, and can actually know streaming numbers and all of that, because there's a lot of advertisers that I'm sure would love to know that information. But also you can kind of see through some of the most watched compared to what and all that. So that's good. Meanwhile, the NFL has one event before the Super Bowl. They got a lot of events, a lot of parties and whatnot, but the Pro Bowl, I know you guys are fired up. I'm sure we'll have plenty of analysts breaking down the Pro Bowl and all of that good stuff upcoming. But no, in all seriousness, we don't care about the Pro Bowl, really. I don't think that most people really do, but it is of note when your guys make it. You like to see that. And so there have been a couple of replacements announced as C.J. Stroud decided to not participate. Bo Nix also not participating due to an injury, so they declined their invites or are not going. So now, as a result of that, there's a couple of alternates that have been named as replacements, and for the AFC quarterbacks, Joe Burrow will now be joined by Drake May and Russell Wilson, as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson also withdrew from the Pro Bowl. So a bunch of quarterbacks declining their opportunity to go to Orlando and play the Pro Bowl, and as a result, Russell Wilson and Drake May are now Pro Bowlers.
Yeah,
so,
see, this is that's a big drop off.
That's a pretty big drop off. Justin Herbert's also not going. Mahomes is playing in the game, so yeah, Russell Wilson's like, I guess, the eighth man up and gets his opportunity. And maybe I'll take some time. Well, I can't do it next week, I guess. Maybe on Thursday I will actually tell you what the Pro Bowl even is at this point, because I bet y'all might not even know how the Pro Bowl even works anymore based on...
I know the flag football and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, the Pro Bowl games is what they call it now. Yeah. And I have I've now watched the Pro Bowl since I was 12 years old, and I plan on continuing to not watch the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I if there was connections to it, I tried to be aware of that. If a guy from a certain college goes or whatever, make mention of it. But it's pretty much just a kind of their thing at this point. But if you're a Russell Wilson fan or a Drake May fan, then that's good news for you. But yeah, the top 6-7 quarterbacks in the AFC are not participating in that game, it looks like. So Joe Burrow, Russell Wilson, Drake May, your AFC flag football quarterbacks. Meanwhile, we talked a lot of video games during the course of the offseason because of the NCAA video game, and I wonder how much we'll talk about that in comparison. Will that drop pretty drastically, you would think, because so much of it was the build-up to the actually being a game again and all of the ins and outs, and now you've had it, and you've had it for months, most of you who did want to play it to begin with. I guess the big anticipation will be the cover boy, right? That'll be the thing, and last year we saw they went 1 for 3 on the cover in terms of really nailing the biggest players in the game. I feel like Travis Hunter was certainly he probably should have just had the cover to himself, honestly, instead of adding Edwards and Ewers to it. But MLB The Show is going with a collage cover as well, and that was announced today. So this is off the radar. That's the place for something like this. They're going with a trio of players on the cover, a one-of-a-kind cover to celebrate the 20th anniversary of MLB The Show, and it's designed on focusing on the future. So your cover boys, Ellie De La Cruz from the Cincinnati Reds, Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles, and Paul Skeens from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Those are your trio of cover boys for the 20th anniversary edition of MLB The Show, and that is a pretty dynamic trio of young baseball stars.
It's Ellie De La Cruz, Paul Skeens, and who was the other one?
Gunnar Henderson.
Gunnar Henderson. Yeah, that's good.
That's a pretty good lineup. It's a pretty good lineup that you'd like to roll with if you possibly could. So that'll be released in March for all the latest consoles. And, first edition was released back in 2006. And the cover boy back then was one Big Papi, David Ortiz. So now he's in the broadcast booth. I guess broadcast set, more like it.
I would love to see him. I don't think he can do during the game.
Yeah, I don't think he'd probably be that
he might be good. He might be good, but I don't think he can be responsible. In the pregame and postgame, he can get a little loose. But during the game, because he's just such a big goofball, in big sense of humor, that he'll say something like, "Oh, you eat the shit out of that," and then "Oh, thanks. This is Fox, Poppy."
Yeah, it's a Netflix, pal. Yeah. But yeah, so those guys are gonna be on the cover. So I like stuff like that, video game covers, as I mentioned during a segment like this. And then finally, we talked a little bit about All-Star games and the Pro Bowl, and I'll get more into that on Thursday, just kind of the rundown of how that's actually going to work this year, even though I know there's not a particularly large audience focused on the Pro Bowl. But more All-Star news from the NBA. They do their Rising Stars Challenge, and I don't know if I have time to go into all of the changes and tweaks the NBA is making to various events to try to make them more palatable, but the Rising Stars Challenge is now a 4-team tournament. I don't know if you guys knew that or not.
I don't pay attention.
No, I know, but this is off the radar, so this is where this resides. So the 2025 Rising Stars Challenge will feature top first and second year NBA players and G League standouts, and they'll be broken up into 4 teams, and they'll play a 3-game mini tournament on February the 14th. So trying to spice up the Rising Stars Challenge and make it more enticing, I guess. But the only reason why I bring it up is some of the rosters got released, and wanted to pass along that Keontae George is a member of the Rising Stars rosters from Baylor basketball, as well as Yves Missy is also a part of this, a rookie from New Orleans and also from Baylor. There's some other ties as well. Tristan Da Silva from Colorado is on there, and I think there's a couple of others. Who was it I saw earlier? Brandon Miller from Arizona, also a part of this. And, there was one more player that...
Brandon Miller played Alabama. Is it the one from Alabama?
Oh, yeah, that's what I say, Arizona. Okay, Alabama.
No, I didn't remember if you said Arizona or not, but I just was curious about that part. Yeah.
That's what I led was saying was Arizona.
Yeah,
and then you said Alabama, so now you've got me confused. But Mac McClung was the one that I was trying to find there from Texas Tech, also Georgetown prior to that. So there might be a couple of others that I'm missing, but that's a handful of guys from the conference and a couple from right over here or just played right over here. So they'll be a part of the Rising Stars Challenge. So congrats to that group of guys. And there you go. There's a few things off the radar.
Very filled with a lot today on Off the Radar every Tuesday and Thursday. Excuse me, in the about 4:45, so we appreciate that. So thanks to Babe Laufenberg earlier. Manny Navarro, looks like it's going to be Navarro, will be tomorrow, so we'll figure that out. Garrett, I'm not asking you to put it up, but did you guys know that 2 Baylor alums are in the finalists for the top 3 annual Doritos Super Bowl ad contest?
No, I did not know that.
This was up on Sikkim365.com in the forums. Mark Blitch, producer, Tyler Johnson, actor, have made the top 3 in the annual Doritos Super Bowl ad contest called Charades. It is getting tons of publicity in the Dallas area. They've been on media in Dallas. Go to DoritosCrash.com to vote. And there's a couple of Baylor alums. And, of course, for years and years, do you know why maybe 20 or so years, maybe 20 or so plus years, I never really got to see the Super Bowl commercials.
Yeah, I was weird the years that I've been when you don't see them, and then you have to watch. Yeah, but you didn't because you were at the game.
Yeah, and you went to a couple too, and so you go to the game and you got all this amenities and stuff, but you really don't get to watch the broadcast.
Okay, so now
because you're at the game.
So now what they do before the game,
kind of a nice. I'm not bragging,
but now what they do before the game is you'll see most of the commercials. They'll play them, and then Scott Hansen from the Red Zone will come on and be Scott Hansen. And then they'll just kind of keep going that was Minneapolis was the last game I was at, and that was pretty much the whole thing. You're just sitting there and, oh, hey, there's the commercial. Okay, well, there's that commercial I heard about. You watch it, and then Scott Hansen's like, whoa, wow, that's a great one from Bud Light. Here's an interesting, fun Super Bowl fact for the people who are filing in slowly and defrosting today. And then they move on to the next one and so on and so on.
All right. Yep, but when you're at the game, attending the game, you don't really get to watch the commercials, and that's something that I heard, I forgot where it was, somebody on a radio show that I was listening to, they've never been to the game. So someone said, you do know, and his favorite part about the game is watching the commercials instead of the game. You do know you're not going to be able to watch the commercials. And the guy goes, I don't know that. So that's just part of something that I wanted to pass along.
Yeah, thanks for the correction on Brandon Miller, because I don't know why I thought Arizona in my head there. Maybe I was thinking of Sean Miller and just connecting the last name. But, yeah, I didn't mean to lump him in, just was confused there on that. And on the commercial thing, it doesn't matter. They're on YouTube like now already. Like we're going to see commercials you don't even realize a Super Bowl commercial in the next few days that are already playing, and you're going to see them in the Super Bowl. I had that happen with multiple commercials. I don't know exactly which ones, but there were at least a couple that I saw during Super Bowl Sunday. I was like, you were playing that like 2 days ago. Why would you waste some money on Super Bowl Sunday if it's already out there? And then it's on YouTube right away anyways. So you're not really – I don't think that's quite the thing that it was, but maybe I just wasn't as into it as other people, the whole like catching the commercials live. I feel like there's multiple ways to kind of get around that now if you don't get that opportunity. He can't see it in the stadium. He can just watch his phone and see them all there. But, yeah, that used to be – a big part of the experience, and I guess for some people still really is.
Some of the changes, thank you, Craig, for Off the Radar. We'll come back. Some of the changes of covering the first Super Bowl ever back in 1992 to what's going on now, and some of the swag. You didn't go there for that. You went there to go cover the game, Radio Row, et cetera, and the game itself. But some of the changes from Super Bowl days past and stories about that, we'll come back with that and more. And Gene Slater spoke with Brian Schottenheimer yesterday, and it's like about 4-minute piece. We might go to that too in this 5 o'clock hour. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Oh, by the way, it's a really good place for you if you have not yet made up your mind of what you want to do when it comes to your Super Bowl parties. And they have what you need when it comes to that. And so it's not too early to get in touch with them. Say, hey, I need this, and this, maybe on the Saturday, or that they're not open on Sunday, and they're open for part of the day on Saturday. So your Super Bowl, what you order from them. Full-service butcher shop with beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. Lots of snacks, lots of things you need. And, oh, yes, they have the bakery with fresh baked bread, kolaches, desserts, and so much more. It's Brian Bauer and the Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, which started from Waco Custom Meats, which was a distribution center for a lot of product, beef product, pork, poultry, and seafood, as I mentioned, to a lot of the local restaurants. And then that's where they had a little local store inside. Then they opened up the business a few years ago that's a much bigger, like, grocery store, local kind of country store that you can get what you need, plus fresh cold beer and wine too. Waco Custom Marketplace, weekly specials going on. Mahi $18.50 a pound. Bone-in pork butt, boneless pork butt from $2.10 to $2.25 a pound. Select New York strip, bone-in select ribeye steak, and bone-in choice ribeye steak from $11.25 to $16.99 a pound. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Kick off the Start Something New sales event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $36,995. Plus, Ford owners get an extra $2,000 Conquest bonus cash. Don't wait, these deals won't last long.
Come by, let's be friends.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Earlier today, I mentioned the ACC football schedule was released. And we really didn't get too much into it. I mentioned SMU, of course, their schedule. We'll get into that in just a second. We'll get into Paul's dream schedule of what he sees from the Seminoles, if they're going to be bowl eligible or not. They stole a lot of different people and coaches from other programs. That's what you do when you're losing. And also, we'll look at maybe a couple of the more difficult schedules. So let's do this. Paul Catalina, I'm going to name the who they're playing. Florida State.
Okay.
Quick summary, win or lose.
Okay.
A win or a loss. Alabama.
Probably a loss, although I don't know who Alabama's quarterback's going to be. I'm not going to say they're going to go out and beat Alabama after 2-10. I don't care how down people think Alabama's going to be or how rebounded they were, but I'm not picking that. But if they do win it, then my outlook will be much better.
I have no idea who this next team is. Is it like Texas A&M Commerce or what do they call it? East Texas A&M now. Yeah. Who's on the SMU schedule? Paul?
It better be a win. It better be a big win. Thomas Castellanos better have so many yards in the first half that he just leaves his shoulder pads in the locker room.
Open.
That's a great week. I love a good open week.
I don't know. Their defense is pretty good.
They got a lot of transfer portal.
Nobody ever scores against open.
That's right.
No.
Nobody ever scores.
But you don't score against them either.
Yeah. So yeah.
A lot of 0-0 ties. By the way, I'm so proud of East Texas A&M. It used to be East Texas State University. Wade Wilson was the coach, a quarterback there back when I was in school. The late Wade Wilson played forever in the NFL. They changed the name back to East Texas A&M rather than Texas A&M Commerce. Kent State.
Yeah, they should better win that game.
Tell me about them. Give me a scouting report.
Again, I don't know anything about Kent State yet. I'll get it closer to it, but they better win that game.
They lost at least their last 5 games, from what I can tell, last year.
Yeah.
All right?
It's one of the worst teams in college football.
That's what I thought.
Period. Like that's an automatic W. Anything else is you're getting fired.
Yeah.
All right, now get into the ACC. At Virginia, the Cavaliers.
Should be a win. They don't normally lose to Virginia.
Home against home against the U.
I don't even know. Yeah, it's probably a loss.
Home against Pitt.
It's pretty early to be playing Miami, it feels like.
Yeah, it is.
No, you know what?
They did.
They used to play the same weekend as Texas OU, so that's pretty close to the 5th game of the year.
But they also have done that game. Actually, FSU and Miami begged ESPN to not do it anymore because they did it 3 years in a row. They played it on Labor Day to open the season. They're like, look, not that – every game's not full of hitting, but this one's full of cheap shots on both sides, and we can't really, police that among our teams. And so we're more injured after that game, and we'd rather have that in the middle so we can kind of.
I think this is close to maybe early October.
Yeah.
It depends on, again, the way that things fall. That could be late September.
Do you not have dates on that? Yeah, that game's October 4th.
Okay. That's usually back when they were both elite. I always remember that being the first weekend in October.
They haven't both been elite at the same time since they've been in the same conference together.
October the 11th, now that I looked at the dates, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pitt won all the games that Eli Holstein played in and then lost all the games that he didn't play in. So if he plays in this game, I guess I can't be all that optimistic. But, that's a home game they should win.
Long trip to play the –
Freaking – it started off – 7-0, and then lost 6 straight to end the season. 7-0.
Oh yeah.
To 7-6.
Yeah.
That sucks, man. That is just the worst ride as a fan. Like, hey, you got into the postseason. Oh, you lost that one too, in multiple overtimes to freaking Toledo. Like, what a rotten cherry on top of that Sunday that went bad quickly. But Holstein obviously being hurt had a significant amount to do with that. But that's. You see at least a win breaking up things or a loss breaking up things. I don't know. I'm sure it was talked about at the time, but has anybody ever done that? Start off 7-0 and finish 7-6?
That's probably a rarity. Now they go out west with that ACC power tradition-rich Stanford.
Watch out, nerds. You're getting it taken to you. I don't care about your Fortune 500 company.
Man, I miss when Stanford was – I do. I miss Stanford being better.
Yeah. In fact, I'm gonna make T-shirts for that game that say "Watch out, nerds."
How creative! You'd be the first one to ever think of that, I'm sure, when playing
Well, I mean,
Stanford.
I'll just have Osceola putting the
spear
in the tree.
That'd be good.
That would be
probably
get
ignite
arrested
a
in
lot of
California doing that.
Yeah.
Very nature-loving folk out there. They would probably not appreciate the burning spear in the redwood tree or whatever.
Yeah, that would create.
Yeah, it's
good
probably,
road trip though.
Good, yeah. So, yeah, it would be a good road trip.
Wake Forest at home.
I'm curious about Wake Forest. Jake Dickert, year one. They signed Deshaun Purdy from Charlotte, who initially committed to Florida as a quarterback out of the portal. And then he was like, oh, wait, DJ Lagway's here. I should go somewhere where I'm going to start. I think that'll be an interesting team this year, but losing to Wake Forest is unacceptable in anything, so they shouldn't do it.
Are they still called the Demon Deacons or just okay? Yeah. Wake Forest and Clemson and your favorite dude, Dabo, on the road.
That's going to be a big time loss. I can tell you right now, that's going to be a big time loss.
I think the Clemson Tigers may have turned the corner.
I do too.
And it might have sparked a little youth in the Dabo Sweeney.
Well, I think
not that he's old.
No, but I do think his coordinator said hey, Dabo, look, you proved your point. You don't need as much, but we need some help.
Sometimes you got to just stop being stubborn and realize what's best for you and that you're hurting yourself with stubbornness. And I think what people may have done was that they rubbed in his stubbornness so much that they actually got him to change his mind. And now they're going to wish they hadn't done that. But I mean, I don't know what else you would have done, because how would you not poke fun at him not going portaling and then subsequently struggling by Clemson standards, and
giving really dumb reasons for why
right.
he's not.
Yeah, I mean, he brought it on, but you have to give him credit for I don't care who said it to him, or if he just looked in the mirror one day and realized, wow, this is stupid. I'm hurting my own football team for some principle that is outdated and ridiculous. Let me change my mind. Oh, wow, look how good my football team is all of a sudden.
I thought I read in an article about him that it was somebody that they were playing that there was the mention of this young kid, player, coming to Clemson. They said no because it's a portal, and then he hurt them.
Probably,
in a game. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and the one thing I never understood about this was Dabo doesn't it's not like he goes out with 35 scholarships a year or whatever they have now and goes 35 for 35. Like he walks into a high school gymnasium and they're working out and he's like, you, Smoak, you're going to Clemson.
I'll be there.
And you turn around and you're damn right, Dabo, I am. I'll see you there in June. That's not how it works in recruiting. So there are plenty of guys that got down the road and went somewhere else other than Clemson. And then after a year, they're like, well, I don't like being at Kentucky. I don't like being at Auburn or Alabama. Like wherever I went, I would like to Clemson was maybe a better fit for me. And then they get in the portal and call up that coach and say hey, I'd like to come back. And then Dabo's like, you said no. And you're like, well, I mean,
absolutely.
Nothing's changed other than a year. And then he would say that thing well, everybody came out of the portal from high school. And you're like, oh, come on. Stop it. But now the thing is he's using that. He went out and got Tom Allen on defense to shore up a unit that wasn't even really that bad, but to shoot some new life in it. Whenever he goes outside of the Dabo tree is when things get dangerous.
Virginia Tech at home.
I'll say that's a win. I'll take a win on that one. Their coach is in trouble. If he'll be there at the end of the year, we don't know.
A team that does create some problems for them.
Yeah.
On the road at NC State.
It's also a Friday game. They've got 2 Friday games.
I know. I hate that. I really do hate that. But, that's that one's kind of nerve-wracking. 3 out of 4 weeks, Memorial Stadium, Carter Finley, and then Ben Hill Griffin. Mm-hmm. Not the best way to, easiest way to end the season for sure.
Which means at some point, I don't know how the schedule was last year, that means those were home games. And then, of course, the DJ Lagway, Florida Gators. Chomp it, Garrett. Put the chomp up.
I'm not doing
up.
No chomp.
Okay.
Look,
Florida.
If you asked me what I would do for DJ Lagway to right now look at Billy Napier and say, I can't stand you anymore, I'm leaving, the only place I'd be happy is Tallahassee, Florida. Yeah. There's not a dollar amount you could put on that for that to happen. But Again, that's like sitting around like having a crush on a girl in high school who goes out with like the most popular guy in school and be like, well, one day he's going to do wrong by her and I'll have my shot. Like, no.
Hey, let me tell you something. How much has everything changed in how you view Florida?
Well, I mean, because of him, like,
yeah.
I said it in the top 5 yesterday, right? Was that yesterday? Yeah.
It was yesterday.
Yesterday's top 5 about Graham Mertz, how he was a progress stopper. And Billy Napier needed to like just say, look, what do you have to lose? They hate you in Gainesville right now. The first month of the season, they're like, okay, it's time to fire this guy. Nothing's getting better. And then Graham Mertz gets injured. DJ Lagway starts playing all the time. And it got like it allowed him to get out of his own way. And now like their recruiting is going great. Like everybody they wanted to get in the portal, they pretty much got. Because especially if you're an offensive player, where do you want to go? Somewhere where there's somebody on the rise like DJ Lagway, and there's not a quarterback in the country that's a true sophomore like he is that is as hyped and as big time as he is. So, yeah, I mean, if I didn't hate everything about him and I was a player that was in the portal, I mean, I'd want to play with DJ Lagway for sure.
That game might be a coaching for your job game for both sides.
Yeah, it might
by
be.
the end of the year. I mean, it might be so, yeah, I mean, got 2 Friday games. I got some other notes on the ACC we can get into. But, I mean, if you look through this and you just go, like, should they win or could they? I'm looking at, like, worst case should be, like, 9-3. And that's having you lose Alabama, and that's having you lose one of the Florida-Miami games and then losing to, like, Clemson on the road.
Yeah.
That's best case to me.
Yeah.
If you're just going, like, you know, week through week with what we know right now. So would you be good with that, or do you think it should be more? Do you think it would be less?
After 2-10, if they
True.
go
That's
if they
maybe
go
a big
9-3, that means that they're like on the door of being a playoff team again. I mean, they won't be in the playoff at 9-3, but they'd at least be out there going, okay, you got to make this better. You know, get some of that talent back in, all of that. You can do it, but
what if it's 8-4 and you lose to Florida and Miami and Clemson?
I mean, that happened this year. I mean, like I know the pain. You know, it's fine. If 8-4 is Alabama, Clemson, Miami, and Florida, at least they beat teams that you think they should beat.
Yeah.
You know, that's because that's not what they did last year. They beat no one that you thought they were going to beat going in, and then except for the
opening game to Georgia Tech just kind of set the tone.
Yeah, the Charleston Southern game last year was. My friends were telling me, like, hey, Florida State's rolling. I'm like, this is literally the worst college football team I've ever seen anyone play, and I'm surprised that they didn't, like, stop in the middle of it. Like the insurance commercial for Progressive where, like, the guy runs off the field to go be an insurance salesman. Like, I thought all of them were going to do that in that Florida State game because that's one of the worst teams. So
there's some people picking the wins and losses in the chat room, and it doesn't look pretty.
What you're supposed to do.
They're I'm sure I haven't even looked. They're all hating. They're all hating. There's not nobody who's positive. And there's no reason to be. They were 2-10.
Yeah, I'm sitting there giving them gimme games when they were 2-10 last year. So, yeah, I mean, that's what you're supposed to when the schedules come out is go ahead and predict them and jump on them. But, yeah, I mean, I would say on paper you should feel like 9-3 is possible. But certainly if you suddenly start dropping games to like Stanford and NC State or whatever, then
NC
that
State
could
was
go sideways.
awful last year too.
Yeah.
But I don't expect that to continue because I think Dave Doran's a pretty good coach.
Yeah, there's a couple of other notes. This one doesn't look accurate, though. It's already...
Who did Notre Dame draw in the conference?
Notre Dame got a handful of games.
NC State for one.
Yeah.
Boston College, that's a traditional game, I believe.
Yeah, I can tell you if you just give me a second here.
I got it. Stanford. If you want to go a little bit faster, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to pull it up where it's actually in front of me.
Notre Dame got Miami. I've got it right here. Miami, NC State, Boston College, Pitt, Syracuse, Stanford.
Hey, that's...
Sounds like an ACC team.
Yeah. Notre Dame's schedule to start next year is at Miami and then off and then
home against A&M.
Yeah. That's pretty tough. And, you know, they've got Boise State on the schedule.
I saw that.
One year after Genty, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see there. But, yeah, it's they're at Pitt. That could be tough. So.
Yeah, I pulled up. I was trying to see some ACC notes, that maybe just like some tidbits, and I don't know. This page I looked up said North Carolina will host 9 home games. I'm looking at their schedule, and they definitely don't have 9 home games. So I'm just going to toss whatever else might be on that page, because clearly if that's not accurate, that's the top thing, then I'm not going to trust the rest of it to be accurate, because I just looked, and they're playing at UCF, at Cal, at Syracuse, at Wake Forest, at NC State. So I don't know where you got 9 home games from, unless I'm just.
I mean, they play Charlotte at.
But even still, that's still not
Jerry
9.
Richardson Stadium. So yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that tidbit came from. Maybe that's, you know what? Nowadays, boys, if you're not double checking, then you're risking that AI is telling you what the facts of a story are at this point. I mean, that's one thing that we got to be mindful of. So
now they do only leave the state of North Carolina 3 times.
Okay, that's what it should be, because by the numbers that I saw was North Carolina hosts 9 of 12 games. It should have been North Carolina leaves the state
3 times.
3 times out of 9.
Yeah.
Thank you, artificial intelligence, for the mix-up.
Hey, let me. You know what? I was talking about SMU. They play Baylor in non-conference in week 2. Baylor has their best non-conference schedule in how long?
Ever?
Auburn and at SMU. SMU's week 2, and then they play Auburn. It for all of us, Paul, before us started covering Baylor during the darker years of 2000s, before 2010 when they made a bowl game, and then Craig around 13 or so is when you
Yeah,
arrived?
I brought the winning here.
He
They
did.
won
No, I
the
did
first
before
year I
you,
was
though.
here.
I brought a Heisman Trophy winner. But having said that, their non-conference schedules used to be it was awful. The reason why is they never knew if they could ever get to 6 or 7 wins to become bowl eligible, and it was trash. And that was the philosophy of Ian McCall and Art Briles. Now,
when they got good, they didn't change it, though.
No,
That was the
and
problem.
Mac Rhodes started, and you have Oregon. Utah was, of course, going to be a non-conference game, which it was last year, and then I guess it wasn't. BYU, and then they became a part of the Big 12. So they've got Auburn and SMU, which they're coming off 8-5 and a nice stretch until the Sugar Bowl. That'll be fun. Maybe not. I mean, I just look forward to that.
It's Auburn. Look, here's the teams on the schedule that would be maybe the Tums game starting out. And of course, we don't know who the Big 12 is going to be any given moment. It's just so topsy-turvy. But Auburn, SMU, Arizona State, Kansas State, and, of course, TCU is always kind of a house of horrors, even though they won last year. And then you throw in how good is Utah going to be with a new quarterback, a young quarterback, one that's healthy. What are you going to see from Cincinnati? You don't know about Oklahoma State. Noah Fafita's back, but who else is in Arizona? So they've got kind of a fairly balanced schedule of toughness and like wide open questions. But again, we're talking about this now in January.
Right.
In August, it all changes, and the Big 12 especially is all upside down.
Did you say they're going to play Arizona State?
Yeah. Yeah, they got Arizona State at home this year.
Okay.
Yeah, there's 7 ACC Big 12 matchups on the schedule. I mean, obviously SMU's playing 2 of them in Baylor and TCU, and I'd have to roll through the rest of them because I don't have that right in front of me. But I did see that note on the power conferences that they're playing, so maybe we can roll that list out. But, yeah, 2 of them are SMU Baylor, SMU TCU, and then if you want to just have me sit here and hum while I look through all of these, I can give you Georgia Tech opens at Colorado. That's another one of those games. I guess you do want me to do that. North Carolina opens up with TCU. So TCU plays 2 ACC teams. And then beyond that, Stanford's at BYU in week 3. And there's got to be a couple of others that I just don't see as I'm scanning through here. But, yeah, there'll be some fun crossover matchups.
Did you say Pitt and West Virginia?
No, I didn't. So that's another one there. Yeah.
Rivalry, right?
Yep.
Or no, that's the game that last year West Virginia had so much built up into that game, didn't work out.
That partially helped get Neil Brown fired, that game right there, because if they don't lose that game, they beat Pitt, then they suddenly look a lot different early on, and then their end probably looks different as well. So that was something that didn't cost him his job, but it definitely threw a log, or it threw another can of gas on whatever was smoldering there and lit it back up, and then the rest of the way did the rest of the job. But, yeah, if they had won that game, then I don't know what happens by the end of the year with Neil Brown. Maybe they're still just committed to making the change to Rich Rod, but that would have been a huge win for him, and they let that one get away, and that was definitely a death knell for Neil Brown.
Who bounces back better this year, Utah or Oklahoma State? Now, Oklahoma State can win a couple extra games. That's a huge bounce back. They were terrible in the conference.
I think it's Utah.
God, it's just
you saw their stop rate. Utah's problem was one thing.
Quarterback.
And it's been 2 years of that. So no. By the way, back to the ACC.
All right.
Would you like to know the hardest schedule of the ACC is Miami. I think that's hands down, especially the way it's set up. They open up with, now they don't have to leave the state of Florida, but like 4 times, but they have Notre Dame at home. Then they play USF, who I think is going to be a tough out for people. I mean, I think they'll beat them, but USF has a really good coach in Alec Golish, and they've got their quarterback back who's really good. Like that's going to be a tough one. Then they welcome Florida into the Hard Rock Stadium. Then they have an off week. Then they go to FSU. So they're going through like the who's who of their schedule as far as name recognition very early on. Off, and then they play Louisville, a team that I don't think they played them last year. But then they have at SMU. Yeah, at Pitt at the end of the year. Their schedule's tough. Their schedule's very tough.
Well, Big 12, it appears, could be, and in fact, we'll ask Mac this tomorrow, released by the end of the week, either on maybe Thursday or Friday, based on what's happened in recent years. It'll be fun. You have all these big, so many teams, and you know sometimes it just reverses who you had the year before, and sometimes it gets mixed up, jumbled into a like almost a lottery type ping pong ball. So it'll be fun to watch what happens. Looking forward to it next year. Maybe even by the end of the week for this next season. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5.
Got my go-to polo from Flag and Anthem. It's everything you want in a golf polo, but you can wear it at a dinner, to a barbecue, whatever your plans are. It's extremely soft, super comfortable. Check it out, flagandanthem.com.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
That's far. So much forgiveness. Wait, did you say forgiveness like far? Or forgiveness like forgiveness? Forgiveness. 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 I'm hearing far. Forgiveness. Like forgiveness. Forgiveness? Forgiveness. I'm still hearing far, but whatever.
Introducing Stealth 2 with more carbon for more forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Just hit it.
Get ready for epic savings at Best Buy. Right now, you can save up to $700 on select Alienware and Dell gaming products. Perfect for leveling up your gaming experience. Plus, grab the latest Android Google Pixel at an unbeatable price. Don't miss these incredible deals. Shop now at bestbuy.com and upgrade your tech today.
Time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Hey, it's Tuesday. It's time for the That Dude Awards. I'm Paul Catalina. This is brought to you by Texas Beef House. We continue. Yesterday was so negative. And look, I'm a bubbly, positive person, jovial even, convivial, avuncular. Those are all words that mean basically the same thing. But these are positive awards. As we get into this week where we're going to start talking about some of the dudes that you maybe all know. I was chastised last week by not having Cam Skattebo on the list yet. Cam Skattebo, believe me, is on this list. He's just waiting for the last day, which will be Friday when we give out the Superlative Dude Awards. The ain't nothing to F with dude, Tyler Warren. Outside of Cam Skattebo, maybe my favorite player to watch in the country this year. Whatever Andy Kotelnicki dialed up with Tyler Warren worked for Penn State this year, all year long. As unstoppable as a player as there is in college football, and one of the most ridiculous tight ends that I've ever seen in my life, which means he's probably going to get drafted by the Chiefs. And Travis Kelce's going to go be an actor and Taylor Swift's boyfriend, husband, or whatever, and this guy's going to come in and pick up right where he left off. That's what scares me about Tyler Warren. Somebody's going to get a really good player this year in the NFL draft. They can do a lot of things and is just that old school football player. Line him up in the shotgun, have him take a quarterback sneak, run an end around with him, throw the ball. He's not unlike Brock Bowers in that regard. So maybe we're entering the golden age of tight ends, and Tyler Warren is certainly one of them. So his theme song is by who, Garrett?
Wu-Tang.
There we go, because Wu-Tang is forever. Number 4, the How You Like Me Now dude, Ryan Day, had a very loud section of the fan base that was tired of him and was mad because he lost to Michigan and was kind of uninspiring, and he kind of found a way not to do what they wanted to do. Well, now that trophy is his. So, how you like me now? So congratulations to Ryan Day for being able to say this to a portion of the fan base. You know, it's a very underrated thing for you to be able to actually say, how do you like me now to someone, and for them to go, all right, touche. That doesn't happen very often. And look, some of these fans will never say that because they'll be like, look, I know we won the national championship, but Michigan's the most important game. Shut up. Stop being a fan of sports if that's who you are. Trophies are the things that matter. And now you can go and visit that whenever you want. It'll be in the athletic facility. You can go and see it. And then Ryan Day can come by and go, how you like me now? And walk on by. Number 3, this guy was third string, dude. Quintravian Wisner. Little biased, you've heard us talk about how we covered him when he was a sophomore at Conley High School here in Waco quite a bit. But shows you how deep Texas was. C.J. Baxter got injured. Jaden Blue, good. Going to the NFL draft, going to be a good player. But maybe not necessarily the kind of back that Quintravian Wisner was. They were down to their third, fourth-string guys. And this was Quintravian Wisner, who played a lot of special teams last year and showed some promise. But one of the reasons Texas made it to the semifinals, if not, in my opinion, the biggest reason in that offense, because he was the most consistent player all year, this guy right here, 26, an old school pounder of a Texas running back. And without him, as good as the rest of the team was, Garrett, I don't know where they are. I really don't, because he was that clutch for them, and he was also a closer for them in games. Not just scoring points, but getting first downs late and ending those close games. Quintravian Wisner, that dude for Texas this year. Number 2, the where did you come from, dude? And we know where he came from in a sense that he was at Alabama. But if you ever watch a game that Caleb Downs plays, there are 5 to 10 plays every single game where he's not in frame and then he just comes out of nowhere and makes the play. Ask any team that's played him. They're just, all right, we got him. Okay, he's not in this play. And then they've disguised it. And then here comes Caleb Downs out of nowhere. Or he just knows the play that's coming so well that he can, go off the assignment that was called and go, all right, I know who's getting the ball. I'm going to go hit them. He is the best defensive player in the country. Once again this year, as a true sophomore, he will be a top 5 pick in the draft as a safety, which never happens, but he is that good and can affect the game that much. He's got Ed Reed vibes to him in the, how did that just happen, and weren't you not in this play when it started, kind of a vibe for Caleb Downs, one of my favorite players in the country. And number 1, the please don't tackle me dude, Mason Graham. The brightest spot for Michigan this year in a year that offensively was a disaster. But at defensive tackle, look, Mozzie Smith went to the Cowboys a couple years ago, and he was a first-round draft pick. Well, this guy played next to him that year, and he's been better the entire time. Maybe the best defensive tackle we've seen come out of the Big Ten in a very long time, Mason Graham. He's also one of the hardest hitters. And defensive tackles hit hard, but they don't normally have the head of steam going ahead like a linebacker or a safety does, because they're not running 7, 8, 9, 10 yards at a guy. But he is generally one of the strongest players I've ever seen. I love Braden Fisk unconditionally, like he's my son. That plays for the Rams now, was at FSU. This guy is Braden Fisk plus. That's how good he is. Mason Graham, you do not want to get tackled by that dude. That's going to do it for this edition of the Top 5. We will see you tomorrow. Smokey, say goodbye.
I will say goodbye momentarily. And tomorrow, Mac Rhodes, Ross Tucker, who's a great segment, covers the NFL, former NFL player. And he has the story about myfrontpagestory.com, which he comes on before Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, and even before Christmas as a gift for your loved one. And he will have that with us tomorrow as well, among some others. We'll try to, I know we have Zach Gelb. I mentioned that too. So did you guys know, I'm going to close it out with this, on the last play that Buffalo had the chance to get the game, win it, or go overtime, the throw to Dalton Kincaid. There are actually, and the ball did basically go through his arms.
He should have caught it. I mean, he could have. I don't know. He could have caught it. Absolutely could have caught it.
It would have been a hell of a catch.
Yeah, I mean, he could have caught it though. Yeah.
Tight end Damian Knox mentioned that Kincaid, who's been taking just like being battered on social media, which is where we are these days. God knows somebody probably put a sign in his front yard. Had been battling a torn PCL in one of his knees, and had been having fluid drained from his knees. He was not at Monday's media availability. He ended up with a pretty good year, but he was going one direction when Allen threw that Hail Mary over the middle, basically. Just a floater over the middle. Should he have caught it? Yes. Could he have caught it? Yes. But I don't know if that, like putting it on him as he dropped the ball, that seems to be a little bit much. It seemed to be.
So you just explaining that he had an injury? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's been battling.
Okay, well,
so maybe
that's not going to help. But I know other people are blaming the officiating, which I totally get with the Chiefs at this point. Like why there's that stereotype. I also get why there's pushback on that. I think you can tell from this show we didn't bring that up a single time in these past 2 days. Nope. Like that's not how we operate. If it's egregious, like blatant, then yeah. But I felt like that mark. Like, put a sensor in the football next time. You know, like, I don't think – I don't know how people see something and somebody else can look the exact same thing and have a different interpretation on where something is. Like, it's beyond the line. I don't see that. How do two people see it differently? Like, that if it's the same picture in the same spot, I don't know. I've just seen a lot of people seeing different things in regards to that. It didn't look from the views that I saw, and I might have just not seen the right picture or something. Maybe I looked away when the TV camera was on. I didn't know how you could tell that was a first down and why it should have been called a first down. But I understand the backlash to that. My whole thing with that game was should have caught that pass or could have caught that pass. Should have been a first down, could have been a first down. But, like, there's so many other plays the Bills could have won that game or taken that game. And, like, to boil it down to those two things, it's like that's taken away from what the Chiefs did. And it's also not putting any onus on the Bills themselves to play better. Like, Josh Allen played like ass at the beginning of that game, man. I mean, in terms of turning the ball over almost a handful of times in that game. He got very lucky. He didn't throw like 4 picks in that game. So, I don't know. I've seen all that talk, and that sucks for him. I'm sure it's been probably the worst week ever. But they didn't lose that game, my point being, because of that one catch.
No. But I do think that with the way things are now, one catch and how somebody can find an address or a phone number on the play. Who's KC's defensive coordinator that we all love?
Spagnuolo.
Allen said after the game, the offensive line slid left after the Chiefs gave a good look the Bills were not anticipating, which then set up the surprise corner blitz from what was the right side right in his grill. There was a running back off in the flat. There's no way that he could have ever had enough time to throw it that way, which people brought up. Terrell Bernard, former Baylor. I think it's unfair, honestly, to say that Kincaid, the tight end, put him in that situation. There are so many plays, Craig, that it comes down to throughout a game, and we just didn't make enough of them. And that's from our great friend Terrell Bernard.
Well, y'all know where Dalton Kincaid played college, right?
Utah.
Yes, he's a Utah Ute. So, Terrell Bernard's a class act. I don't expect anything less from him. But, that play wasn't the defining factor. I can see where some with small minds might feel like they can narrow it down to that one thing, but there were a lot of plays. And I'm not trying to – like, Josh Allen had some great moments, but y'all understand where I'm coming from with somebody like and I know that's part of his style is getting away with some things.
Yeah, he's like a car without sometimes an axle.
But I didn't feel like he came out like with his best version of himself on the biggest stage. Is that fair? I feel like if this is your big redemption and this is the big team you've been waiting – I just expected a bit better early on especially. And I didn't feel like they were putting out their best version or he was putting out his best version. And a lot of that had to do with Kansas City's defense. So it is what it is. Bills will run it back and try to finally take down the Chiefs at some point. But you can win all the regular season games you want to. It doesn't matter. Like, the playoffs are what matter, and the Chiefs are pretty damn dominant, and I don't know when that dominance runs out, but it doesn't appear to be anytime soon, although Philadelphia will be a great matchup. I'm looking forward to it.
I do want to say one more thing. I know we got to go. We had a little bit more time before 6. Coaches in those 2 games, Philadelphia, and now Washington plays like crazy with going for 4th down or whatever, and they make a lot of them. But there was a time when Washington scored to cut the lead to 14-12. It was the first half. Why did they go for 2? Here's why. Here's why you don't. You make it okay. But if you don't, and then Philadelphia scores, which they did, now you're down 9. Mm-hmm. You're not within a 1-score game if you just kick the extra point. Don't start chasing those extra points in that point that early in the game, because in the end you could end up losing 3 to 5 points.
Yeah.
And I saw that in the Bills game, I think against the Chiefs, too.
The Bills did it, too. You go for 2. Here's my 2 scenarios. When nobody expects it at all early in the game when you have a lead. Like, I love it sometimes when teams, score a touchdown, they run it and go for 2, and it's 8-0, and then you kind of make the other team, if it works out, you make them have to do that math the rest of the game. I don't like it when you don't have to go for it. You have, a quarter and a half left to go in a 1-score game. Just don't do that until you have to.
Yes.
Because if you do it before you have to and it doesn't work out, you're probably going to wind up having to do it again.
And there's a lot of these guys, they have like analytical guys on the sideline. Is it time to go for 2 or not? I just did not. Kim Coulter was texting me a little bit. I was like, why do that? Sure enough, you can get yourself down 9. You have plenty of time to maybe catch up. But I thought the 2-point conversion decisions a handful of times on Sunday were a little bit strange. All right, thanks to our great sponsors. Thanks to you, the audience, watching us on YouTube, 365 Sports. Sikkim365 app, and also on Twitter at 365SportsYT. For Garrett Ross, for Emery Winter and Andrew, for Paul Catalina and David Smoak, Craig Smoak, thanks to you. Appreciate you. Please click the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We'll see you tomorrow. Triple option at 1. We're back on again together at 3. Have a great night.